And pop onto Serenat. The damage is coming out, and his Devil the Gray is here to play. Flash coming out early from Serenat to make sure he is out of.
And due to that fact, again,
there it is.
Wow,
beautifulness you want to see. So to get out. See, but Will at the end there. And
We have a very exciting week ahead of us in terms of our quarterfinal matchup, everything else. You can see on your screen all of the matchups we've got. Of course, Conviction up against GMU, Illinois State versus Wildcard, Supernova versus Dawn, and Revival versus Bay State.
Yeah, that's right. We've definitely it's been a long road to get here to the playoffs, and we've seen a lot of good matchups so far. I think a lot of playoff spots weren't even locked up until last week, if I remember correctly. A lot of things were still up in the air, with the exception of teams like Supernova, Revival, who were the top of their respective groups. And you got to imagine they are going to give some of these teams that they're facing off in the quarterfinals a run for their money too.
Yeah, I do think that this of the 4 matches that we're going to be having for playoffs, I think this might be the closest one. Looking at all the other
Yeah.
teams, I think this will be a really tight match. This will be a really interesting game to watch between Illinois State and Wildcard Dev. I think they're both very closely, even in stats, they're very closely correlated. And the players themselves, I think they can all match each other, and I think we'll have a pretty interesting series. Yeah.
And we've gotten actually word from both of these two teams about how confident that they are, not only in their ability to beat each other in these two games. Both these teams came out and said that we are the better team. I talked to both the coaches just before this series, but also about their ability to beat anybody within the league, which I think is really impressive. So when we take a larger scope, what are your guys' opinions on what were the important wins for these two teams over the course of the season? We'd seen a little bit from ISU, they're a collegiate team, pretty popular in some of the amateur scene. And then Wildcard Developmental, we see their sister team a lot, but we don't get too much. Mr. Beatdown, I know you yourself are an aficionado of the Wildcard Developmental squads. Why don't you tell me what was your favorite win for them this season as they got themselves into playoffs?
Ooh, that one is a little tough, especially because we've seen Wildcard a couple of times on broadcast alone. I've even casted them in different tournaments as well. I like their recent game versus Dawn. Again, another 3-game series, another banger as it ends up being with Wildcard, especially because, as Asher will definitely attest to, game one, more than often than not, doesn't go their way, but they always manage to collect themselves and bring it back into the at the end of it. And I think I really like their play style as well, because even though we're starting to see these jungle nerfs come through over very recent patches, at the end of the day, it still seems like this carry jungler meta will reign supreme, and they play around it really well because, of course, Ghostly Cat is quite a good jungler, and he has a lot of good meta picks, and B, some really solid pocket picks, that shout out Kane, that can, if he gets an early lead, allow him to just run the map, run the game, and lead Wildcard to a victory.
And what about you, Mr. Koskin? And instead of talking about Wildcard, we'll talk about an opponent that you faced during the regular season yourself in Illinois State University. What was the favorite matchup you had all season?
I mean, I'm going to be a little biased here and say I think my series with them was my favorite series that I got to, I guess, witness, because it was a really close series that my team played against them earlier in the season. Same scenario happened, actually, where they dropped game one, then they had putting the next two, because they just cemented into my mind that, like, they really are comfortable when they get to their power spikes. They really know how to team fight, even if they get down like a little bit of gold. You think like the early game it's a little scrappy, and I'm really interested to see how they play versus a team like Wildcard, where they have like I think their strongest like asset to the team is they have like pretty good roams, good rotations, early meta, like early macro. And I think that's what makes them like stronger than just having like better players or just better mechanics. So I'm really interested to see how ISU if they can deal with these early rotations, if they can deal with these early macro plays. Yasin likes to rotate out of the lane. I really want to see if they can manage these roams and try to find their holdings, find their bearings, and if Disconnect and Rudos can 1v9 these team fights.
Absolutely. Big fan of Yasin. I love watching him roaming throughout the lane, especially when he's on Alistar, does some really mean stuff. I'll bounce back to you again, Koskinen, before getting Beatdown's thoughts on another topic, which is these two groups had really interesting endings in two very different ways, because on one side, Wildcard Developmental ended up in a third way tie for first place, which put them in this sense where their coach was like, okay, we were in a 3-way tie. We beat Conviction beat Revival beat us, and it just ended up falling into the place where they ended up in the third seed. But they don't feel like anybody's infallible, and they had their first opportunity at Revival with their new roster. Do you think it was more impressive for, I guess, Wildcard Developmental to come through this division and tie for number one, even though they're the third seed, or ISU to clutch in the gulag at the end of the season in that 4-way tie for second place and end up pulling it out ahead of all of their competition?
As a member of that gulag, I personally think it's more impressive for ISU, because that was a really rough little end of tournament that we all had to participate in. And I think that if they get themselves together, if they pick up where they were slacking in the past, if they get their macro down, if they're more consistent in the early game, they can be a real menace with how good they are at team fighting in the later stage of the game. And no slack to Wildcard though. I respect their players. I respect their team. I've watched them play. I've even been on the analyst desk for one of their games, and they're I think they're like a solid baseline of like they're pretty good. Like these guys know what they're doing. Watch out. Like if they play like average, like if they play like pretty good, they're really scary to play against. Like as long as they don't ever find themselves slacking. I specifically remember watching Wildcard when I was casting their Bethany game that they put Yasin on a champion they didn't roam, and they had a really rough game. So I hope that they stick to their guns and play to the way that they want to play, so we can get like as best as possible from both these teams.
Mr. Beatdown.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That's all good.
What was more impressive, the three-way tie and the ability to place at that point, or the four-way tie for second place that ISU ended up tapping at the end?
That's tough. I kind of want to lean towards Constant, and I feel like it's a little biased because in a different way for me is because I always love those kind of almost underdog stories where it's like, oh, they need to get X amount of wins, but also Y team needs to lose. They got to win by 2. Like, I love those scenarios, watching teams actually make it out of the... I like the Gulag reference, so I'm going to stick to that. And I find those ones very impressive and just inspiring in a way too. So I'm really glad that did go through for ISU. It is a little more impressive to me because I do think that was a tougher group also to make it through. And I think that last little 4-way tie towards the end of this split kind of showed that.
I agree. We're going to get a chance to kind of zoom in on both these teams in just a second here, but I do have a little bit of a clip to show both of you to hype you for this series, as there's some pretty important stuff. Mr. Hyper, if you would please play the clip so I can show these two exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
really
watch
what
this. There's, I don't know who that mid laner is, some random apparently. You're going to get him run down by Drew Dozer. Here we go. He's got a gank into the mid lane, and the Shockwave can't dodge that. And eventually he's just going to get run down by this team. But this is to, I guess, draw us into the notion before anything else that we're talking about ISU. We're talking about their ability to try to play towards some of these lanes. Drew Dozer specifically, and the rest of this team is a fun little shot at our desk analyst right there.
Yep. You know, he lived there. That'll happen.
He lived
sometimes,
there. Yes, he did.
It was that was. I think there were 3 times that game where Drew Dozer managed to survive with sub 20 health.
Yes.
In that lane phase. So. That one got to me. Although that was the one game that we did end up winning of the 3 game set. But yeah, no, I never put any doubt on Drew Dozer's mechanical ability. He's a 1K LP player. I would really like if he can pull out a Katarina game. I know he doesn't play it in comp that much. I'm not sure how good it is right now. I would really enjoy if he can pull out one just for the highlights, just for the clips. It'd be a great, like, you know, if they win game 1, they go into game 2. He's confident, but I know he hasn't played it much in comp. I know he has played it before, but I'm not sure if that's something they're willing to use again. But he's pretty like menacing lane opponent. Not to put any slack on Rember. I think Rember has like the highest stats of all the mid laners just in the entire tournament. Not entirely sure on that, but he's like really close up there at least. And so I'm hyped to see the mid lane matchup. I'm hyped to see if Remember can shut Drew down in the early game. I think if you gank him early, if he gets like some pressure, if he's on like one of those scalers like Victor, if you like put some pressure into his lane and he's not able to hit his items as fast as possible, it'll really take them a long time to pick up steam. And then if you don't let them get to that late game Nirvana where they're at like 3 items, ISU will slack a bit. But they always go for the fights though. They'll go for the fights. But yeah.
Absolutely. So now we get a chance, I guess, to observe both these teams directly. One of the matchups we were actually looking at was Ghosted Cat versus Hyper. However, we've been updated that Gluten Free Panda will be starting this evening, which is, I think, an interesting decision across the desk. Before we jump into the implications of what that actually does, I'm going to let you talk, Mr. Beatdown, because, of course, you're a resident expert on Wildcard developmental. Tell us about Ghostly Cat and tell us about how this Wildcard team can find some success around him.
And the thing with Ghostly Cat and Wildcard developmental as a whole, again, just given this current meta and how they like to play, they do like to play around their jungler. And you see how that ends up culminating into a lot of leads for them. And once Ghostly Cat really starts to get going, get some of this early gold, whether it's farm lanes or kills, kind of like you're seeing in this clip, he does end up running away with it with the rest of his team towards a match win. Usually once they get a lead, they just never let it go. And it's so hard to actually take one back from the squad here. The only real downside is there are games where Wildcard, if they kind of struggle to get things going in the early stages of the game, then you do see them flub a little bit towards that mid to late game because they really do depend on these leads that they can use through Ghostly Cat to win things out.
Now, Mr. Koskinen, talk to me also because we made mention to the 3-item spike and the team fighting possibility of ISU. So let's talk about, can this team match that team fighting pressure? Do you think that, especially Minui in that bottom lane, especially as ADCs have become a little bit more team fight oriented, things like Jinx, Tristana popping up, do you believe that they have that kind of firepower to throw back up against ISU if they get into that deficit? They can't get Ghostly Cat running in the early game.
I don't throw any slack on Minue. I do think he's pretty good. I've seen him play. I've seen him in solo queue too. I think he can perform on these later game team fight champions, but I have to compare him to Disconnector, and I think those are like his best champions where he's running the team fights. He is like able to get his items. If he hits his items and he's on one of those later game champions, one of his signature champions right now is actually Ezreal, which is I think a little bit like he's like kind of in meta, kind of out. But I have never seen someone 1v9 team fight like I've seen Disconnector on Ezreal, so I would like to see him pull that out if he was playing more of a weak side towards him. But I do think it depends on the champion matchups and if they're able to get that early lead. I know the Yasin likes to roam around, so if they leave the bot lane on an island and they let Disconnector hit these items, it could be scary in the later stage of the game. I would put my money on ISU if there's not too much of a gold lead for Wildcard. However, I also expect Wildcard to have a gold lead once they get to that later stage of the game.
Okay. And what about your thoughts, Mr. Beatdown, on Minui and that bot lane possibility up against Disconnector?
So I think I'll just start kind of like from the beginning, from where Koskinen was talking about it. Yeah, late game in general, I think Minui is good, especially with those really particular pocket picks he can come through with. There are actually some games where he'll play mages in the bot lane. He's played that Vigar and actually can perform really well in the later stages of the game. But overall, of course, yeah, we got to give some respect to Disconnector, who he's going to play against as well. I think, though, Minui overall plays weak side quite well for Wildcard. So even though Yasin is inevitably going to leave that lane come level 3, this is how it goes, I still think that they aren't going to lose a whole lot from it because more often than not a lot of teams can take much from Wildcard's bot laner, especially when he's on his own like that. So I don't believe we're going to see that kind of lead develop for ISU's bot lane unless they hard commit to it. And you got to imagine a team with macro as good as Wildcard, they're going to punish you for that.
Mm-hmm.
They will. Funny enough, I actually had a discussion about Disconnector earlier today, and I asked one of the first things, I was like, how's the Jinx coming? Because Jinx has popped up in a competitive, and back in the day, I know Disconnector played a bunch of Jinx. Apparently, he doesn't play Jinx anymore, like at all. Like the coach asked him, he's like, oh, Jinx is coming into the meta, and then he's like, oh, do you play Jinx? He's like, no, I don't play it anymore. And I was like, how? Like the one of the few people that I respect. That's what I'm saying. It's fun. It's entertaining. Now it's strong. Like, what's the? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Doesn't excite him anymore, I guess.
Yeah, can't get excited anymore. So sad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
The perfect champion to do so. But let's talk about, I guess, now what is an elephant in the room when it comes to ISU and their substitution of Gluten-Free Panda into the roster. As our expectation coming in, especially even the coach had told me before the series had started, the Hyper was almost certainly playing. Here comes Gluten-Free Panda. Their series against Bay State maybe had some indication that Gluten-Free Panda wouldn't be that much of a downgrade compared to Hyper. So I'll start with thoughts from Koskinen and come to you, Beatdown, on what does this substitution mean? How does this affect the chances of ISU within this game?
I was going to start with a quick fun fact. I actually was at college with Gluten-Free Panda for my first years of college at Robert Morris University. So I know the guy from real life and in person. He's a great guy. But I will say, I think the insight on why this swap occurred is because I think Hyper is a relatively inconsistent player when it comes to playing these like super high tempo junglers. Like he likes to play stuff like Lee Sin and Talia. And sometimes that just doesn't pan out and he ends up becoming a burden to his team. Well, I think Gluten-Free Panda can play more consistently, even if at a lower level. I think they need that consistency to get them to the later stage of the game, which is where they're able to perform and shine. So I think that's the main reason they're swapping. I'm not sure on this, but that is my insight on the swap. And I'm not sure if he'll perform better or worse than Hyper in this scenario. Hyper might be able to perform better in a clutch scenario if he pops off. But I'm interested to see if they end up subbing him back in or not, or if Gluten-Free Panda just manages to pop off in the first game and show that he's able to play against these high-performing teams, such as Wildcard Developmental. I don't think they would make this decision without putting some serious thought into it this late into the season. You know, it's playoffs.
The thing I find most interesting about this, too, is because the real the matchup I wanted to particularly highlight was going to end up being Ghostly Cat versus Hyper, how they play conversely different styles between their teams. Wildcard plays for Ghostly Cat and Hyper plays for ISU. And that's a difficult play style to make, again, even considering the recent jungle nerfs. But from what we've seen with Gluten-Free Panda being subbed in these last couple of matches over the last couple of weeks, he can actually play that carry jungler role. And we've seen him play those really high tempo junglers, the Lilia, we've seen play the Hecarim and such. And that's kind of hope that makes me a little more hopeful for ISU in this matchup, because I don't think you can beat a team like Wildcard playing that style of jungle. So if Gluten-Free Panda can actually match Ghostly Cat, which I mean, on paper, I lean more towards Ghostly Cat, but if he can match it, if they can kind of not allow Wildcard to get that lead they're always trying to force in the early stages of the game, this could actually be a really good swap out for ISU.
And funny enough, actually. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I was just gonna say that whenever I saw Nausicaa play the best, the support for ISU, is when he was playing these roaming supports. So I'm actually really interested to see if both supports will rotate out of lane. Is Disconnector and Minuet on an island together, both playing these scaling champions, and it's a complete like brawl in the upper quadrant of the map to see whether like which support can get an edge on the other one, which jungler can get an edge on the other one, because they're both going to be playing in a more of a similar style. Although I do think this is Wildcard Gaming's like this is what they want to do. This is what they're trying to get at. But I'm really interested to see how they're going to do with this swap coming in and Oscar being able to play what I think is his best style. I think he performs much better on roaming sports.
Agreed. So, funny enough, I got a comment actually from the coach of Wildcard, and they talked about how they saw Ghostly Cat and Hyper as relatively similar, very aggressive junglers, where like Hyper's been around for a very long time, for a number of years. I'm one of his biggest fans. I can tell you that from basically day one of me seeing him. I thought he was one of the best junglers AM has had. And Ghostly Cat wanting to step into that type of role, being a relatively new player. So now we're getting the Gluten-Free Panda matchup instead. I'm assured right now that they're at least a little disappointed. At least Ghostly Cat is, because there's a lot of faith put into that. I also got to talk to Minuet, and he could not possibly thank Ghostly Cat enough for how much that he does for the team. But what I need from both of you, really quick, predictions, and I need you to tell me why. Give me the reason, the X factor, maybe, if you will, of why it is that you're making your predictions. We'll start with you, Mr. Beatdown.
All right, so all things considered, I think ISU are going to put up a really good match for Wildcard, but I think it's Wildcard 2-1. I think at the end of the day, Wildcard have done such a good job in a lot of their matches throughout the season, being able to get that early lead. Really good macro, really good roams from Yasin, and I don't think that's going to change this game in particular. And the main reason I'm saying 2-1 is I have to believe now in this Wildcard kind of flubbing game one thing, because I've seen it enough. I've given them enough 2-0s where they end 2-1, where it's like, okay, they're going to lose the first game. I just got to respect it. 2-1.
All right. If I had to make a prediction, and this hurts because I think this is a really even matchup, but I really would like to. I like betting against Wildcard. It's fun, but I gotta say 2-1 ISU. I played against ISU. I played against Wildcard. I think that it's harder for Wildcard to actually close out games here if ISU plays to the style that I know that they like to play. Even though I expect them, they're in the driver's seat. It's all on them, especially in the early game. It's on Yasin's roams. It's on how much of a lead they can get, and if they can shut down these later game carries and close out games. But I think it's actually pretty difficult to do that against a team like ISU, who's really good at like slowing down the game, letting their carries hard power farm and get their items. So I'm saying 2-1 ISU, but I don't think it'll be a stomp by any means. I think it'll be close.
Those fantastic opposite predictions. We're guessing 3 games. I'm going to give it 2-1 to ISU as well. But I know 2 gentlemen who are going to be just as excited to try to get into this game. So we're going to be taking it over to the caster desk where Mr. Mazel and Mr. Schillinglock are waiting, ready to cover game number 1.
Welcome, everyone, to the caster desk for this quarterfinals matchup. I am Mazel, and I'm joined by the wondrous as ever Schillinglock, and we're going to be guiding you through this war that will be Illinois State University versus Wildcard Developmental.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lennon, hopefully your return to amateur is going to be a long one, because right now it's going to get pretty hot, man. ISU, the desk already talked about it, a notorious squad that loves getting to the late game. I don't know if you remember last time, but then they went to late game against EGP, formerly Zenith, and that's where Surdy was trying to do his best job to try and 1v9, but it didn't manage to work out. Excited to have you back on. Knowing that you've been working with the LPL. Great stuff over there, man. But Lennon, man,
Thanks.
you excited?
I am so excited. I'm a little sad I don't get to see Hyper, but we do have, a panda,
That's
and I'm
true.
always happy to see pandas on the Rift. It's always a good time. But
You're always an
in
animal guy.
actuality, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but you're
In
always an animal guy.
actuality-
I think you want pandas overall over hypers.
True. Hey, our Hyper production guy, he's pretty amazing too. But
pretty cool.
we'll be getting into this ISU wildcard matchup. The thing for me here is we see a lot of similarities. The desk talked about it a lot in the fact that we want to see these solo lanes popping off. We want to see these lanes pop off. And especially, it's going to be heavily influenced by these junglers. And having Gluten-Free Panda come in, being that more consistent player, but not as pop off as Hyper, I'm really interested at what we see going into this draft.
Yeah, I think Koskinen kind of highlighted it pretty well for Gluten-Free Panda, right? He is more consistent compared to Hyper, but then he's also playing a little bit at a lower level, as Hyper, of course, has played on a lot of upper tier leagues in amateur, but he is relatively consistent. Hyper is better for those clutch situations. GFP, I wouldn't depend on him for clutch situations when we just take a look at both junglers, but I'm excited to see how these teams want to approach it, because we looked at draft, the desk talked about a lot. I think draft matters a lot for these guys, and when it comes to a lot of these kind of share champ pools, and also some of these pun intended wild card picks that both these people have.
Yeah, even Illinois State having some of those niche picks that they do like, but we're gonna see a lot of those comfort bands away. Don't want to let these guys feel comfortable going into this series. That Zoe band is an immediate call to a comfort pick there as well. The Gragas hover, but I was gonna say I would still like to see more bands towards these comfort picks, towards these things that we do see these guys popping off on constant.
I would agree too, man. Like Drew Dozer has a wacky champion pool in the mid lane. It's something that ISU is comfortable with. I'd honestly target that. Make sure you play something a little more control mage oriented if you don't want to deal with his Renekton Pantheon shenanigans that he has. Seraphine, of course, needs to get banned away. Sad that we see it on the blue side, though. I think red side, Seraphine needs to be banned 100%.
At least it's gone, Walk. At least it's gone.
Yesterday Revival actually played it on blue side. They actually didn't play well with it. I got to be honest. Chookies did look good on it, but the team overall didn't work well with the Seraphine. So just unfortunate ISU are unable to pilot it, man.
It is a little unfortunate, but hey, we'll see what they can get today. As the Camille does also come off the board, so we're still getting some of that solo lane focus that we said is going to be so important for these two teams. And diving into that fact is, we've talked so much about how ISU's lanes, they're especially looking at ShamWow, Drew Dozer as well. They can pop off those lanes. They can take complete control of those. And that's a little bit different from the side of Wildcard. They need to have that stability in those lanes. They need to have a little bit of influence from the jungler and make sure they can get to the later parts of the game in the team fights. And so I want to see how they approach this. I want to see these first picks come through, Walk, because we're already done with the bans. The last couple were that Kayn and that Gallia.
Yeah. Kayn, of course, is for sure so we got to ban away from Ghost Cat. Loves playing this champion, but Tristana is available, and Tristana has been rising up in prominence right now in every league just because of the flexibility that you get from mid lane and AD carry, and it's a great late game DPS, of course, when you get the resets and you're able to just kind of hit tanks for however much damage with that attack speed Sarah. So I like this pickup from ISU. It works well for Disconnector for sure, but for Wildcard, Thresh is of course one of the best blind pick supports right now, knowing that it can win against Thrall, win against Alistar, and Udyr, of course, is also very safe too.
Udyr's still sticking around, man. It honestly blows my mind a little bit that he's stuck around this long. They're trying not to take him all the way out of the meta, but slowly nerf him a little bit. But hey, he's still a strong force. He's still a very good jungler right now, and Ghostly Cat, no doubt, is going to have a splendid time on it. This would be something I would love to see, Walk. I know it's close to it. Yes, we do get it. It is the Lilia coming in for Gluten-Free Panda, one of his signature picks.
And it works well too. I think it's a really good champion, especially if you want to set up the Tristana in the mid lane. Make sure you have a mixed amount of damage in your pool here. So like what ISU is setting themselves up for as well. Pretty solid, right now off the gate. Meta picks, nothing uniquely different out of their champion pools. We'll have to wait in the second rotation though, Lennon. That's where we can see some crazy picks from, specifically Drew Dozer. Gangplank being locked in, this really is something that is surprising for sure. It is a takeaway for TC Porsche 2. So
Yeah.
I like this. It's a good setup for ISU to set themselves up for a composition that is designed to
But
kite
then-
away.
But then,
Oh.
wait, there's more. They get the Lucian, so you know, you pick the GP. You know what poison you're gonna get from that. If you're letting
Yeah.
it get counter pick. So we'll see how that all works out. We talked about the laning being so important, and hey, now you get the counter pick.
It feels like Wildcard was already ready for this, man. They were like, you lock in that game plan, you know I'm going to take that Lucian in top lane, guarantee it, and that's what they do, man. Like, I haven't seen this counter pick be
Still
played in a long
flexible,
time.
but
It's still flexible. You can definitely set yourself up for all the other lanes that you can establish on the red side. But if I'm Wildcard, man, like,
yeah.
just put it in the top lane. There's one reason why you pick it this early, and you're going to be putting it in the top lane for sure, because you could definitely set up other solo lanes or other 2v2s for ISU that can answer the Lucian or answer in the bottom side. So that's my bet. We do see some bans coming in though. Alistar, Blitzcrank being covered, Sivir being banned away. So that actually reveals to me that ISU are down to put the Yordle in the bottom lane, Lennon.
I'm very interested in this. We saw a large amount of support bans, at least, or bottom lane bans here in the second phase with that Alistar, the Blitz coming off the board. Sivir also is banned away. Don't want to give that comfort ADC over to Minui as well. And Syndra, some strength in the laning phase being taken out. So these last couple picks are going to be so important, Walk, and I want to see what we're going to get.
Yeah, of course, they're going to be saving the Lucian for the solo lane.
Yep,
Kai'Sa's
there it
on the
is.
table for themselves. Bot lane is revealed though for Wildcard, so ISU do get the strong side bottom that has been notorious for their drafts overall. So they get to kind of pick and choose what they want, and they can send the Sursana in the mid lane as well. Damage profile wise, you know, it is going to be only GFP with the magic damage, knowing that the AD carry has already been locked in for Disconnector, and it is going to be that Caitlyn. But you know, I think right now for ISU, they have a lot of range champions, a lot of squishy champions. This is a very high-risk draft, Lennon. But if
I'm
you
seeing
pilot it-
pop-offs here, Walk. All right. I
No.
can't hold it anymore. I can't hold in the hype.
If you're gonna pick this kind of composition, like, it is so dangerous to pilot because
but it's
you
a
get
big
jumped
sword.
on.
Sometimes you hurt yourself with it. I don't know.
No.
Look at the Caitlyn Morgana though. That's what I'm excited for. I mean,
I
that's
don't
gonna
know,
be
man.
pretty
It's
nice.
like you have to, if you get into a position where you are in a siege kind of composition, and you know one piece of the puzzle falls and you're still a-okay, that's great. But look, remember, man,
Ooh,
he's gonna be
that
picking the LeBlanc
though.
in the mid lane,
And now it's a
so
little
that
scary, all right.
Yeah.
You're starting to sell me. Walk, you're starting to sell me.
I don't know if you play. I don't know if you're playing Teamfight Manager, Lennon, because I have.
No. I haven't. I probably
This comp
should,
over
but-
here, comp over here is basically like all marksmen and like mages, and usually they're weak against assassins. That's an assassin being picked down here, okay?
Yeah.
This is an assassin, okay, guys? So, ISU do not have the tools to deal with. Remember, they definitely have to get far ahead to make sure that they are able to deal with it with damage, but they definitely do not have like certain tools to answer it outside of maybe Disconnector with 90 caliber net. But that's kind of it.
Hey, you know, all I'm seeing here is they're just gonna dive straight into those laning phases. If they don't win, then so be it. Go on to game number 2. But if they win, these pieces with some gold on it, you're gonna be feeling really good in that early part of the game. But I'm really looking at gluten-free Panda here for Illinois State. Like, you have to be this rock for your team at this point. You have to be all over the map seemingly here, and be able to put up with Ghostly Katsudia.
I mean, at this point, ISU, of course, they do establish a strong side, weak side. You know, Gangplank is going to be their weak side. He's going to have to do his best to farm out against TC Porsche. Disconnector and Nazca are for sure their strong bottom side. We highlighted them already that these guys love playing for 2v2s. And if I'm Minui and I'm Yasin, like, I don't know what I can do to defend plates, I'm being honest. You get outranged, you get outgunned, you don't have the best wave clear to manage the wave itself.
Yeah.
Like, you have to call in the backup of Ghostly Cat and Remember, and I don't know if they can even get there in time before the plates start falling away.
And also, going back to the point the desk made, Yasin trying to roam, trying to get out of the lane, trying to help the team, and I don't necessarily know if you want to do that with just a little lonely
no.
Kai'Sa against the Caitlyn and the Morgana. Sounds like a terrible time. So it's gonna throw off wildcard developmental teams game plan to some extent, although they do have some pieces to fight back with.
Yeah, it's mainly going to be on TZ Porsche, seeing if he can push his lead against ShamWow on the top side, making sure he's getting plates on top side too. Maybe potentially set up dives with Ghosted Cat and Remember onto the game plan, knowing that that's his biggest weakness as a champion is getting dove on. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited, man. Bold draft from ISU for sure. This composition is like, it's full-on backline, no front line being established. If they can kite back and, you know, just out-micro Wildcard Developmental, they'll be able to take it, Lennon.
It's the year of the ADCs, that's all I'm going to say.
Sure.
I don't think I'll ever say those words again, because probably jinx every ADC out there. But it's fine, because, you know, we're going to be getting some pop-ups here, hopefully. And I just love to see that those essences, those things that we were talking about for both of these teams and how they like to play, coming to fruition here in game number 1 to some extent. I mean, some of that comfort being banned away does hurt that a little bit, but they still get the general concepts that they want to go for. And when you're going into, you know, the quarterfinals, you know, your first playoff match, you have to be able to feel comfortable in the series.
Yeah, I think if I'm ISU, right, like, even though winning Upsurge is really great, they're right now in the North Conference playoffs, and, you know, this is definitely going to be a big test if they could take down some of these better teams. So that's one thing I'm definitely curious of, if ISU can kind of replicate all of this and put them against some of these top collegiate teams. I think they have Bethany Esports, my school, kind of plug it in, my school,
plug it
in their side of the bracket. So that's who they're gonna have to face if when it comes to this kind of performance, you know.
Yeah, and it's always nice to look at that outside competition, see where these teams, like the story behind where they're at right now in the programs themselves. But I'm just really happy that this is kind of the matchup that we get to look at tonight, because, you know, having been able to be a part of a lot of ISU's story and seeing GFP, seeing Drew Gozer come in, and even though Hyper is not playing tonight, still seeing that kind of development in the team is awesome. And this is where I'm really looking at Wildcard Developmental Team to show us what they got, because I think looking back and researching some of these players, they have some great things about them, and I want to see it perform tonight against one of these teams that I know I've followed a lot of.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I'm Disconnector used to attend Grandview University. I worked with him. I've had communication with the GFP. Noska, of course, coming from the OPL. But for Wildcard Developmental, some of these players we've already known. TC Porsche is probably the most recognizable out of the bunch. But even then, you know, this squad has been putting in a lot of work as a roster that is developing, and it's great that we see some of these orgs, you know, put time into it. And appreciate Wildcard for doing that, because right now Wildcard, you know, they're playing in Giant Slayer, and, you know, they're doing a pretty good job as well.
Yeah, indeed. As I do believe we'll be getting in the game here shortly, but we will be diving right in. And I want to say just a couple last little bows on top here for the draft itself. And
what's up?
I want to see GFP go to mid lane. I want to see Drew Dozer pop off on this Tristana. But the thing is, you look over and I'm starting to hear a song in my head. And it's "Do You Remember September?" Because Remember has the possibility to really just destroy some of these ADCs. So, like, I really want to see the Tristana get some focus, but man, if Remember can pop off, that's gonna be fun.
You know, I'm actually thinking about "Do You Remember" by Jay Sean. That's the song I'm thinking about.
All right.
That's my song I'm thinking about.
Fine. You know? Hey, at least it's the same one. As we're gonna be getting straight into the game here. We are on to Summoner's Rift for the first game of the evening. We have ISU versus Wildcard.
All right. So many potions here. I didn't realize how many potions people just pick up in the game. Lennon.
That's the hard-hitting analysis I needed.
That's the biggest question I have.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's the
imagine
new meta.
If there wasn't, this is where I imagine if there wasn't any potions, you know, only just like refillable for junglers only, and that's it.
Why would you do that? Why?
I don't know.
Just cause?
Would you ever want to drink a custom potion though?
I mean, yeah, it looks kind of good. But you know, we're gonna be getting in this game, Walk. So let's let's see what we've got going on. I see potential shenanigans Potential. All right,
Game,
Walk. Potential.
late invade potentially.
I would love to see it.
Oh, it is.
He wants those cheeky nuggies.
Okay, first off, Lennon, they're raptors.
Okay,
They're
gotta
not
give him some
chickens.
dignity.
Yeah, they're not chickens, man. You want some raptor nuggets?
This
now.
is the gameplay I love to see. That remember?
Yo.
Okay, so now that they know that he's there at least, and they will find a little bit of damage down onto him, but they do have to be careful here because Porsche
ShamWow.
talking about that counter matchup. Walk is working out.
ShamWow, why are you walking up to a person with 2 guns? You got a sword. That's great. 2 guns
I
usually
love
wins
it.
against 1, so definitely not the most ideal. I do like the movement on what Ghostly Cat is doing, though, going from red immediately into the enemy's blue buff. So we do see some vertical jungling starting to occur, be developed on both sides, and it's definitely going to work wonders for both of them. They're setting themselves up to play for the strong sides, set up potential dives on the bottom lane, set up potential dives on the top lane. If this all goes well, Lennon, it's all basically going to be based on the execution of what happens when those turret dives are set up.
Indeed, it will be, and GFP just being able to get that side of the farm. I want to see. I don't know necessarily if he got spotted that ward. I didn't necessarily see where he went on the top or if he went through the blue side. But I would imagine that they know where he's at, and it does look like actually Ghostly Cat's gonna be the first to get something off here. Nope, it is not gonna happen. ShamWow gets the back off.
He does, but then ShamWow, of course, is sitting there with a
Has to
measly
TP.
2 CS, and of course he's going to be teleporting in to make sure that he can at least pick up a wave, pick up something. It's very tough for him, but on the opposite side as well, Manui, under turret against Disconnector and Nausicaa. They haven't taken as much fire, but for sure the tower is going to take a good amount of hits.
The typical response that you would see from a Caitlyn Morgana lane, making sure to get that siege down, get some damage in. And obviously, Yasin and Manui want to try to get some assistance down here to make sure this doesn't just continue to happen. But for now, we do see that Ghostly Cat's going to be more towards that top side. So they'll have to just take some of this this bullying for now, as we do see GFP going right back to those Raptors, although they have all trounced on him now. This is not looking good. And first blood will actually go over to Porsche.
Yep, they kind of read the movement here. You can't really take top camps when your top laner is getting pushed in. And also, Drew Dozer wasn't ready for the rotation too. GFP got to recognize what happens when vertical juggling occurs. The top side is something that you definitely cannot touch, and giving a kill over to TC Porsche is not a good thing.
Oh, he just
Yasin's
right
gonna
on
get
to him.
jumped on
Yasin.
too.
He does have Death Sentence though. Yeah, this is really nicely done there, but they still get the double kill. They still get out. Drew Dozer surviving a little bit longer. Now they have the ultimate siege trio down here. Walk. I feel like this is a sight for sore eyes right now because he's not even going to attack it. But they're there for moral support.
Yeah, they definitely salvaged the situation for ISU, getting 2 kills, 1 on Drew Dozer and 1 on Disconnected. 2 people that you want those kills on. It creates a discrepancy in the mid lane that allows Drew Dozer to move from mid lane to potentially stop top dives or accelerate the bottom lane with plate taking. And 2, it accentuates the discrepancy of the bottom lane just as much as what's happening in the top lane too.
And I believe we are going to be getting straight into a replay here to just show what happened, what that shenanigans was. Oh, never mind. We are not going to be getting a replay, but you saw it already, so it's fine.
Yeah. It's where GFP walked into Raptors. He wanted some Raptor nuggets, and then Wildcard was like the big bad parent. Was like, no.
I was I mean, it's hard to fully gank Drew Dozer with that rocket jump available to him. You're trying to time it nicely well, he doesn't have it. Although, speaking of timing nicely, ISU, they will be seen to be doing the dragon, but it doesn't matter. There's not going to be a response, and they will pick up the first dragon of the game for themselves.
All that bottom priority is going to guarantee.
They didn't get
for
that
sure.
control ward walk. They didn't get it.
Drew Dozer, can you walk back to bot pixel? You'll be fine. Just pick up that. That control ward should not be there, knowing how much priority you already even have as well. But unfortunate.
It's all good. It's all good. They left it there on purpose.
Yeah, it's more of like kind of like a warning shot. You know what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're not gonna take this, but if you are in the area, we will take it eventually. We'll take your.
Ooh, you see what's happening right now, though. GFP is getting pushed out of his jungle.
I don't understand why GFP wants to be up here. Like, you can't really contest these camps if your top laner ShamWow is just getting pressured in under the turret by TC Porsche, man. Like, I respect the try taking and defending your top camps, but honestly, it's a tough call when TC Porsche can just kind of beat your head in with those gunslinging guns, you know.
Yeah. We see Drudozer down here again, looking for the rocket jump reset here. Does get it. Is going to run straight into Manui, and they have a couple more members than you thought under tower. And Drudozer is going to go down because of it, but still able to pick up a kill on Tristana, who is now 2-1.
Yeah, TC Porsche actually didn't burn that teleport to save anything in the top side, instead saving it for answering a bottom lane dive, and works beautifully. He picks up that kill for himself. Also means he's able to just bully ShamWow even more.
Cat, you dirty person. I love it. He's going to catch ShamWow here, too. Was really missing that damage on that powder keg right now, Walk, wasn't he?
This is
we'll see
why
if he can grab it, though. Yeah, one more slap.
Strong.
Oh, but he gets the kill.
He's alive.
It's too good. Ghostly Cat with the outplay, with the kill as well.
This is why Udyr's broken.
Still.
You see how much Phoenix Sands does, man? Like, it just chunks you for like 300 right off the bat. I don't think ShamWow was expecting that at all, as he has to flash away, and even then he still dies because of turtle stance and move speed. So, see if Yas can answer against Drudozer though. Let's have to jump, so he should be okay.
We'll just get on out of there with the rocket jump. No problem. And we're still seeing a ton of early game presence from Wildcard. I'm loving it. Although the bot lane has gotten a little bit of something.
I would credit though, Manui has been doing a good job just having a good amount of CS. You know, 50 to 72 is okay. You know, I would say is respectable considering the matchup that you're going into. So, good job on his end. We are going to be going into a replay though.
Yeah, it's going to be first tower got on your screen as we do go into that replay. Although, let's see which one.
Oh, it's the first blood. Oh no, not the first blood. It's
no,
the
this was
cat.
the chase down. This
is
the Udyr outplay.
This is Turtle Stance and Triumph saving his life. My God.
Oh, we got the dive going on the main screen though. Ghostly Cat takes an extra shot from the tower. Okay, he's taking a couple extra shots. He's gonna take that lantern, get out of there. Dark Pass is gonna be a wonderful, wonderful treat for him right now, as they do get away from some maybe not so wonderful play up there in the dive in the top lane. Thought they were gonna collapse here, potentially onto Drudozer, but it doesn't look like. Oh, the flash comes out and he gets the death sentence too. Oh, Drudozer, I'm so sorry, buddy. The thing right now, Walk, is they are everywhere together. Wildcard is playing this game amazing.
They kind of need to, because they have to try and stop Drudozer from snowballing in the early game, knowing that Tristana has a lot of high base damage with the explosive shot. But the biggest thing is that ISU do manage to defend the topside dive against ShamWow. Honestly, if Drudozer just wasn't playing aggressive in the topside jungle against Remember, he's honestly actually in a fine state here. So a little bit of a miscommunication that occurred from ISU and their communication from setting up the top wave and their rotations to Drudozer doing his thing.
See if that bot lane lead, especially the Caitlyn Morgana combo, can come to be a boon in the later parts of the game. But gotta start looking at some objectives here as they do. GFP starting up a Rift Scuttle. Drudozer, again, it's some serious trouble. He's getting some help this time, though. He's got the Cannon Barrage, he's got the TP coming in. He gets the death sentence point blank, and that's never what you want to see on the Tristana. And immediately dies to the Bear Man on Ghostly Cat. ShamWow was there for some protection, but unfortunate end for ISU.
Lennon, I don't know if you saw that. Drudozer actively hopped in with the rocket jump.
You know, he thought he was going to get the kill, okay? It's fine. Disconnector's gotten 10 plates by now, though. I just want to highlight that. Like, Disconnector's got to pop it off right now on the goal.
There's a difference of having an I think I can mentality to I have it mentality. It's currently being developed between Drudozer and Disconnector. 10 plates is I can have it because that's the tools that you were given. I think I can is hopping in face first into a bear slap and a
Did you
flay
ever
and a
read
hook.
that book as a kid?
So-
though? I think I can. I think I can.
I think I can. There's times where you can and you can't. It's better to just kind of survive. You also got
Yeah, I
TP
agree.
called in from ShamWow and Ultimate, man, and you'd have to throw your life away like that. I'm being honest.
But hey, it do what it do and it be what it be. So now we have to look at the
Be what it
future
be.
of this game. We have a 3-0 Udyr right now. Ghostly Cat is doing the things that we thought were going to be a little rough to do against Gluten Free Panda, against Hyper coming into the series. Obviously, Hyper not playing, but so far it's been the Udyr that's been the driving force. Oh, they got the engage here.
Yeah.
Talking about the Udyr,
Um,
talking about a dead Lilia. He's flashing forward. The bear slaps are coming down. Disconnector flashes over the wall. Has a Lucian right there. He's going to get really low. That's going to be the ace in the hole, getting the kill too. They get the response, but a little bit of sketch play coming out from both sides.
Lennon, remember I said that ISU's composition is very weak against assassins? It's also very weak to someone just running at him with a gigantic chem tank. Like,
Yeah,
he just
I would agree.
as
I would
long as he
agree.
doesn't get hit by a binding or a 90 caliber net, he's a-okay just walking up and just slapping someone and just starting a fight here. I mean, he's going to look to do it
Talking
again.
about it. You know, you dark shield, you black shield, your ADC. I'm gonna come slap you. And he just
Yeah.
comes, walks by. It's just a drive-by slap, and he's gonna
He
try
wins,
and
he wins the tray too. Like you
It's-
saw
yeah,
the
it's
damage
insane.
disconnection through, and how much Phoenix Stance did. Insane.
look at this siege though. This is about to be so many plays for Disconnector. This is the worry right now. We talked a little bit about how Disconnector is this key team fight force. He is this late game potential for his squad, and he's setting himself up nicely with some good weapons.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's coming early for Disconnector, man. For everyone, ISU. 15 plates is a lot. ShamWow's gonna get hooked up though.
ShamWow getting caught though. The goalie comes out. Look at that 3-man lilting lullaby. The follow-up is there. Yasin goes down. Porch, the next to be caught out. Drudozer is just jumping around looking for more. Ghostly Cat and Manui luckily able to get out of there, but ISU are starting to push that gold advantage just a little bit more. Oh, they found him. Ghostly Cat being greedy
Oh,
here.
God.
Luckily, he
All
has
right.
the blast going to get over though. Expertly played.
Playing to the hopscotch in the jungle, no big deal. But let's take a look at the gold right now because Disconnector is still sitting here at 2-0-2. He's looking really good for himself, and also Drudozer finally picking up another kill for himself too. I mean, the gold right now is just being flooded in favor for the mid laner and AD carry for ISU, and credit to them. It's their biggest strength that they have right now. The only thing that's to be worried about is Cat jumping in on top of him. Let's go take a look at this replay real quick, though. Lennon?
Yeah, I believe we are going to have a replay coming in very, very shortly. And
Hiya.
oh, okay. So
Yep.
it's the start of this fight. I like it. Man, that lilting lullaby, though. And then Drew
Yeah.
Dozer. I like what you said. Playing hopscotch here at the point. I know it wasn't necessarily that
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
but it's just a good time.
I will say, though, for the composition of ISU, their composition is really good when running away, right? As long if it's a front-to-back team fight and you have complete vision of who's going to be running at you, then you'll be doing pretty good. The reason why ISU's composition is relatively risky, though, is that Ghostly Cat is a fast man that can dodge bullets like Neo in the Matrix. LeBlanc is also someone that can potentially look to find flanks, too. So if Wildcard manages to get to a position where they are at an even state, and they are able to play in enemy jungle and play around where ISU's wards are, ISU's composition can easily it can easily just fall apart with just 1 or 2 people falling down. So that is the worry for ISU. But right now, as long as they maintain this gold lead, it will be really good for them.
Yeah, I mean, you give ADCs extra gold, you give a bunch of leads there as well. Could be a good one, as I do believe. ShamWow gets caught. All right, so a little bit overextended up there towards the top lane.
Disconnect does get low from the trade of against Manui, so. However, all this is just for that dragon that is coming up the next 20 seconds. So they will be able to take this for themselves too. As long as they maintain this dragon lead, they're able to kind of just set themselves up for these Elder. And Elders are honestly really good too for their composition. So good job on them.
And I like the setup here from ISU, as I do believe we're going to be getting a play of that catch out up there. See the ghostly cat chase down.
That's just Chem Tank Udyr, man. Like that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like he's just gonna run up at you, and like Chem Tank this early on is something that Udyr can just kind of abuse. 5-on-1 though, Lennon. Like
It's
he's
a strong Udyr. Not gonna
strong
lie.
Udyr.
And he's getting tankier, knowing where the damage is coming from. A lot of AD, a lot of burst in that AD potential there. So he's definitely going for that tankiness in that fashion. And we'll be seeing a Rift Herald start up here about 17 minutes in for Ghostly Cat. See what they can get from it. But that was a dragon picked up there by ISU as their second dragon of the game. And they actually pull off the Rift Herald.
Okay, I guess they don't want to be in a situation where ISU can just walk up and just start firing things from left and right. But if you're in those kind of positions, I would have liked Remember or Cat to be in a position where they can flank. Yasin can also be in a position to flank too. I think that's the ideal situation of what Wildcard wants to be at, is around these neutral objectives when ISU are walking into them, rather than having your own team walk into theirs when they have complete vision and complete awareness of where all 5 of your chess pieces are going to be at. So we'll have to see if Wildcard can recover around these neutral objectives.
Where you're hoping to see it kind of come together. They do have some good team fight potential. They do have some good catch out potential for these squishier members, but you have to be set up in a good way before you can do that. You can't go off foot at least into these fights.
Yeah, and I like what ISU are opting into, right? Instead of just going for 5-on-5 sieges, which the composition is definitely can look to do, they're actually opting into 1-3-1, so they avoid straight up 5-on-5 team fights here. That can be risky. It requires a lot more individual skill on all roles to pilot a 1-3-1 effectively, but it does get you a better win at the end of the day. This is collegiate, this is amateur. Having the highest level play is something that is very hard to rely on because you can get punished and get caught out on, like what Remember Nui are trying to do against Drewdozer. It's a good thing that he managed to back off. Yeah.
They didn't exactly know where everybody else was. They didn't want to push it up, and luckily they didn't, because you already saw the collapse going up towards that top lane from the rest of ISU.
You know, that's where I'm a fan ISU. I'm wondering why you're not just strangling Ghostly Cat by taking away some of these camps. You know, just making sure you take out top camps, go back bot, take out the bot camps, because you have so many of these turrets already being gone. You know, I think that's what ISU should be looking to do to accelerate their gold lead and to 9 more of a gold lead. But
Ghostly Cat. There's the Scannon Barrage listening lullaby. They found Manui, but they don't get the damage down. It's still the health bars there for Wildcard going down. Now the Goomba Stompin's coming to town, and Drewdozer's trying to find more. He immediately regretted that decision and flashed back, but good plays coming out from ISU.
All right, good job on their end, and that's where Ghostly Cat walked up. He bear slapped. It didn't really matter, but Drewdozer. Okay. All right, he is going to back off, Lennon. Drewdozer is going to survive. But that was a 4-on-4 at the end, because Remember wasn't a part of that fight until... Actually, wasn't even a part of that fight at all. But that's where you look at that composition. That's where we look at Manu, you look at Yasin. They didn't really jump on the correct target with Ghostly Cat, and they try to kite back. Let's look at that fight again, and this is where we got to break down the setup of what Wildcard developments are at, and look at where the team fight and their positions are going to be. Never mind, replay broke, guys. It's okay. They were just sitting in a box. It's all good.
It's all good. It was just a freeze frame. Just give you a little bit of a memory of what happened. As we're going to see what's happening now on the Rift. It's so crazy to me because we have seen so many good things from Wildcard in this game, but the gold lead says something different. It's a big amount of money here, Walk. I mean, they have these huge item differentials, and yes, you talked about the squishiness. Don't matter when you got big old guns and you're shooting them right in the face with them. Like, that's all that's said and done.
Yeah, this gold lead is gigantic. Remember is unable to kind of assassinate anyone now because Black Shield on Nazca is really good. Disconnector and Drewdozer have a lot of abilities, but I mean, look at what happened to Remember. This is why Remember is unable to assassinate Disconnector or Nazca, because one Black Shield is a good tool. Disconnector,
that's just Baron started up too.
Just has the 90 caliber net too, and Baron's being started.
This is a little bit of a force, but hey, if they can do it though.
It's pretty bold.
A little
Let's see if they can
disrespect
do
coming
it.
out, but it's fine.
They do have a lot of damage though, Lennon. Like this Baron
They
is
do.
falling down
Look
very
at it.
fast.
I mean, the Bear's already down. They're not in position to fight over this for Wildcard. They might have a flash. No, they don't even have the distance on it, and that will just be the Baron picked up. And some more bullying for ISU.
All right, man. I think Wildcard developmental, unable to kind of pressure what they want to go for, and Ghostly Cat, remember, are just not in position to isolate some of these targets, unfortunately. So now Wildcard kind of have to go for a Hail Mary play because they're down 10,000 gold right now.
It is a very, very big gold lead. It has ballooned a little bit since that last fight. They are going to try to get this dragon. I don't know if this is the exact call. They're trying to get something on the map for themselves. They do find Drew Dozer, but he rocket jumps away, and the health is already going down. The dragon's already picked up, and that's going to be by ISU. And this damage is insane. The health bars are just not going down, and Disconnector is popping heads right now. He almost dies to Remember, but he will pick up a double kill for himself, and they will end up finding Remember as well. That is a huge fight for ISU. A little bit back and forth, but they get everything they wanted out of it.
Yeah, great stopwatch at the end too for Disconnected to make sure he saves his life and doesn't give any sort of shutdown gold back over. I mean, it's in a 7-0 on 3, and Drew Dozer was just being the sacrificial pawn. Oh, I'm sorry, Porsche. Get bopped.
Yeah, there's a little bit of watch out eep happening over here.
Yeah. ISU, man. I definitely said that, like, this comp is a risky composition but can find the wins. Right, Lennon? But you need a good gold lead to make sure you have that gigantic cushion, and that gold lead is definitely there.
So at this point, I mean, you do have still a Baron buff up for yourself on the side of ISU. I'm wondering where they're going to try to push this. I want to see them try to break open a little bit more at the base, try and get some inhibs, try and get a little bit more of a cleaner win on this one. They do have a Dragon Soul coming up in about 3.5 minutes, so I want to see what they can capitalize on before that.
You know, at this point, ISU just strip all the camps, make sure you have proper vision of Remember and Ghostly Cat. But with flashes being down on their ends, now honestly there's nothing too much to worry about. You're able to just kind of set up in the safe situation and walk up and take whatever the heck you want as a 5-man deathball composition. Now, it's so tough for Cat and Remember to kind of walk in, man. Like, they're looking, they just can't find it.
Yeah, they were trying to get a little bit of that farm on the other side. Oh, they actually were trying to find out ShamWow there. But not able to. Oh, they got baited, though. They got baited. Manui goes down, but so does Drew Dozer. All right, you got the trade. Ace in the hole comes through. Almost the half health. Remember there from what he was at. And this push is going to continue. Baron buff not lasting too much longer, though. But they've got the bot lane pushing. They've got the top lane pushing. They're going to look for another in-hit.
Yeah, they can still set themselves up for a siege situation because Manui is their main source of damage in the later stages. Hook doesn't have an Oscar, but it's going to start a fight.
That's the double lilting lullaby. He's going golden, but does it really matter? The damage is still there. The gold lead is still there. This is just going to be the end of the game. It has to be, as the kills are going to come through. Shield Bow is going to save Porsche's life for a little bit longer, but they are going to be looking at the last couple pieces of their base going down. And, you know, Manui finds at least one. He gets a little bit of redemption, a little bit of confidence booster, and it actually means that ISU can no longer push. They've lost both their sieging members.
Yeah, you have to back away now. Disconnector, I think he was a little bit overconfident of Manui just getting an isolated Icathian Rain on top of him, but you know, that still does damage, man. He has a Collector, he has Gale Force. It definitely does take you out, and giving a 1,000 gold bounty for Manui is never a good thing. But regardless, ISU is still in the driver's position. They're still able to just kind of siege up the last lane, you know, for themselves. Dragon's also coming up in another minute 30, but maybe this 1,000 gold lead can help out Manui, but I doubt it, Lennon.
At this point, you're just trying to find those little advantages, trying to find a bit of something on the Rift for yourself. But you, in all honesty, words are hard, Walk. You got to kind of be looking at the next game and what worked and what didn't work in this game, because you saw a lot of positivity coming out there for Ghostly Cat. And yes, there still are some moments where you can catch out Drew Dozer. Some of that scaling is going to be coming into effect. But even so, you need to pull some of these strong pieces that you had and shore up some of those weaknesses.
I am surprised, though, that ISU are opting to go for the soul. Honestly, you don't really need this soul at all, but ShamWow.
They did find ShamWow on the side there. That's going to be the triple looping lullaby, and this is where they just follow it up. Drew Dozer doesn't have the vision yet, but that's going to be everybody dying to GFP. Drew Dozer is jumping around, trying to find people. They do get their own jumps from Manui over the blast cone. He does get out, but this is just ISU barreling down mid lane.
I was going to say ISU honestly don't even need to fight around the dragon. They don't need the soul to win the game because all they need to do is just pressure the top lane and force Wildcard to show up. But regardless, they're going to win this fight. They're going to take this Nexus. Look at Manui, man. He got 3 shot in the head, man.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
That is going to be it for game number 1. ISU show up in dominating fashion in a huge way, and will take that 1-0 lead in this series.
I don't know what Wildcard Developmental can do when they're in that position there. It's such a push and pull when you're playing in such a volatile composition of what ISU is throwing, right? But the moment you get a kill, the moment you get 2 kills, the moment you secure like 1 team fight, you know it's like kind of game over because that composition for ISU should just fall away to pieces once one of them just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the thing is that all 5 pieces were working at the end of it, and that's why it worked. You know, not one of them was a gigantic liability. Sure, Drew Dozer kind of made some kind of some misjudgments in when it comes to making some plays, but regardless, he was still functioning later on the game goes, and Disconnector didn't get tackled at all until like the last second where
like, that's insane.
10 kills, man. Like it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're Wildcard Developmental, you have to figure out and find those options early on to make sure that you can accelerate your top side while making sure the bot side doesn't accelerate as fast as you are. And once you get to that point, then it becomes a very big seesaw of you know, small little executions, macro positions. It becomes a very big nail biter. And maybe if Remember gets off on the right foot and is able to assassinate a lot of these, you know, very squishy targets, that also changes the game too.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of that gold being sunk into Remember's pockets early could have helped too. I really want to see some of that stability coming out in their lanes in the next game, especially for me, because that's where this focus in this game is for me, and we didn't get to see that. Mid lane was okay, but Drew Dozer was able to get out roaming against the LeBlanc and not being punished for it. So we've got to find something for Wildcard Developmental to shore up those laning phases.
Yeah, and maybe we look at draft again. Maybe instead of picking LeBlanc, or maybe you pick something that's a little bit more volatile, but that can actually dive in with the squad. You know, LeBlanc, of course, is very good, but then in isolation against Ursana, it just doesn't work out. You know, maybe Irelia is an option, or I think Camille was banned. Actually, Camille was banned, but something of the sort that can actually just lock down everyone is always a good way to go for. So let's see what goes in the next draft. But ISU, man, they played a volatile composition and they made it work.
They did. We're going to hear more about those compositions from game number 1, a little bit more about that game on the other side of this break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Oh, he just right on to
jumped on too.
He does have Dissonance though. Yeah, this is really nicely done there, but they still get the double kill. They still get out. Drew Dozer surviving a little bit longer. Now they have the ultimate siege. Love it. He's gonna catch ShamWow here too. Was really missing that damage on that powder keg right now, Walk, wasn't he?
This is
we'll see
why
if he can grab it though. Yeah, one more slap.
Strong.
Oh, but he gets the kill.
He's 15 plates is a lot. ShamWow's gonna get hooked up though.
ShamWow getting caught though. The goalie comes out. Look at that 3-man lilting lullaby. The follow-up is there. Yasin goes down. Force the next to be caught.
These turrets already being gone. You know, I think that's what ISU should be looking to do to accelerate their gold lead into 9 more of a gold lead. But
goes the cat. There's the cannon barrage, lilting lullaby. They found Manui, but they don't get the damage down. It's still the health bars there for Wildcard going down. Now they're trying to get something on the map for themselves. They do find Drew Dozer, but he rocket jumped away, and the health is already going down. The Dragon's already picked up, and that's going to be by ISU. And this damage is insane. The health bars are just not going down, and Disconnector is popping heads right now. He almost dies to Remember, but he will pick up a double kill for himself. Side there, that's going to be the triple lilting lullaby, and this is where they just follow it up. Drew Dozer doesn't have the vision yet, but that's going to be everybody dying to GFP. Drew Dozer is jumping around, trying to find people.
But regardless, they're going to win this fight. They're going to take this Nexus. Look at Manui,
They
man. He
can't
got
even
3
get him.
shot in the head, man.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Upsurge Premier League first week of playoffs. All of us have gone into a shadow. No, someone turned the lights on. That's a little surprising, but our eyes are just readjusting now as we get out of that first series where ISU, they took an absolutely commanding game in number one. And of course, our molding friend, Mr. Beatdown, can talk to you about how he said they'd win game one when in reality he called the other team to win. He could talk about why it is that he thinks that is justifiable here.
I feel like I'm being personally slandered right now, and I'm not going to stand for that, Rebel, because I specifically said, and I will personally get the clip, that game one would probably not go Wildcard's way, because again, I'll get those quotes out of here. So the thing with Wildcard, again, yeah, this does happen where the game one usually doesn't go their way, and they always manage to regain for games 2 and 3. The thing is, though, I don't want to detract from how ISU played. One, I think they got a really nice draft, especially with that Caitlin Moore and having Drew Dozer also on this Tristana. And the way they used it just so clinically to be able to take towers all across the map. We were like laughing about it while watching. Like, it is insane how much plate gold Disconnector got. And if you didn't notice, he was part of all 15 plates dropping. Some were solo, some were between his teammates, but the point is that was so much extra gold, where to the point that a Minui, who by all accounts, who was playing quite well, I think at one point was 5 and 3, had more CS, but if whenever you saw the gold numbers, was down like 2,000 gold, 3,000 gold. It was just insane.
And our other guest here tonight in Koskinen, another member of the potential to dethrone the master analyst and beat down himself, predicted ISU as the big brain himself, agreed with me, which is a fantastic choice, if I may say so myself. Is Caitlin a fair champion, and is ISU set up for a game number 2 with that game number 1 performance, in your opinion?
Okay, I just gotta say, I think ISU draft, at first I was a little bit suspicious. I was like, oh, they let Udyr go through, they B1 Tristana. It's a little... Like, I think Triss is a really strong champion, and she has a lot of flexibility in the draft. You can put her bot lane, you can put her mid lane, you can sometimes even put her top lane. And they gave the Udyr over. I was a little concerned, but then when they ripped that Kate Morg R4, R5, I was like, yo, that's kind of... I was a little smurf. Like, you never expect them to just hard go for that combo. It just changes the entire way you play the game. And they were not... Wildcard was just not prepared to deal with that. And I wanted to mention this, I forgot to. But one of Disconnector's best champions is Caitlyn. You could see him playing so phenomenally on this champion. His mechanics are crazy good. And when he gets these free plate gold, because Yasin likes to play this roaming playstyle, he doesn't want to be in the lane. And they're able to hone in on that and play a bot lane. He just like forces you to stay in lane, gets all of this gold. And it was just way too much for them to deal with. And Drew Dozer got these crazy roams off bot lane. I didn't really like the LeBlanc counter pick into Triss. I didn't really understand it. Because Triss just pushes so hard, and LeBlanc can't deal with those champions without kill pressure. And she had the exhaust. She wasn't really in a position where she could ever stop him from just shoving that lane and just running bot lane and just making this Kate Morg so horribly unstoppable. So, and yeah, I think it was like half draft if. It was just also played really well. And I don't think Wildcard will make the same mistake of giving this center this Caitlyn ever again. Like that, that was whack.
That's permaban right away going into game 2, and that's definitely part of what I'm sure is Wildcard strategy going forward here. But yeah, that is a really good point too, because even though Udyr did get through, even though at one point Ghostly Cat was, I think, 5-0 or 5-1 or something, yeah, it was just an unreal lead that realistically didn't matter, because Caitlyn and Morg are so good at dealing with a champion like Udyr. Melee, Kate and Morg being super long range, it's just so difficult for Ghostly Cat to get anything done. And one thing, too, that we haven't highlighted yet, GFP had a really great game on the Lilia. We saw a lot of great sleeps come through, just a lot of good play overall on the champion. We talked about it at the start of the show about how GFP does play that carry style and is quite comfortable on this champion. And you can see it right here. A big sleep leads into a big play, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end there for Wildcard.
Yeah, I will not put any slack on that Lilia pick. I thought it was really phenomenally played, and the fact that he was solo AP was pretty interesting too. I know that Lilia is a pretty decent solo AP threat, but also another problem with Wildcard's draft is they didn't have anyone who could take advantage of the fact that all of this gold was on Tristana and Caitlyn, and like the only tank that they had was Udyr, and he built Merc Treads. He was just taking the shots. And all these squishy champions like Lucian, all the, the Kaisa and the LeBlanc coming mid lane, they just get shot down by these champions. They just get so ahead from these plate gold. And I really got to hand it to Drudos and Tristana as well. He got so many towers in the silent, and he did have a little funny blooper play. I hope they can pull up here. That
Yeah.
I
No
thought
one
was
is
the
safe.
personal highlight of that game. Gonna pull up real quick. And this is just a little funny thing happened here. They have a nice little fight in the mid lane. GFP popping off, just popping off. I was like, there's a walk here. Ooh, yeah, it was just. But it was really fun to watch. I think he might have overstepped his boundaries a bit on that Trish, jumping where he shouldn't be a couple of times. But he made up for it by there were just points in the game where if you're watching and like it's focusing on like Caitlyn just like pushing waves, like they cannot deal with her, and you'll see tower's gone, and then Drudo just takes a tier 2 tower randomly in the side. I think Wildcard was a little out of their comfort zone. Their lane assignments were not on point at all, and when they don't have a tempo in the game, they appear to fall apart.
All right. Now I'll bring back some more questions as I'll start with Koskinen talking about ISU, and we'll come back to you, Beatdown, about your team and your prediction and whether or not you want to change that. But Mr. Koskinen, does ISU come back in game number 2 and just stomp out the series? Do they run back something like what you just saw, that flexibility in the mid lane, really aggressive picks, just control bot side? Do you think they change to something else? What strategy, what improvement might you make to make sure that they take them game number 2?
I really don't think, even though it's like a little bit unorthodox, I don't think that they're going to let Disconnector get that Caitlyn again. I'm not sure if they're going to ban it necessarily or pick something that they can't play it into. But it was really successful how they played it, where they played a champion, they just pushes mid lane and just goes bot lane and gives them all of this freedom. So I'm not sure if they're going to let him get that champion again. I think that ISU should continue to draft this style, and I know that ShamWow is very comfortable in these more weak side champions, top like Camille, like the Gangplank. So even though they had that lead top lane, they got nowhere with it, and he was still a good asset to the team. So I do believe if ISU runs back a similar style draft, does not let Yasin get these roams off by punishing at bot lane, and lets Rudozer pick these champs to get these like early prio and gets impact on the lanes, I think they can definitely easily run it back. I'm very curious to see if Wildcard fixes their draft issues. I think a lot of the problems lie in the draft. So I would like to see them fix it and give us a good game number 2.
All right. And for you, Mr. Beatdown, I'm going to give you 2 options. Either A, you can tell me how it is that Wildcard run this back, not only in game 2, but also for game number 3, or you can admit that I am the greatest and that you are the worst. You can say those words right now on stream, and you can take back your words.
You can do it.
I will never,
do it.
never. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stand my ground, mostly
Okay.
because I do believe Wildcard are going to be able to come back here. Because you already highlighted Koskinen. Disconnector's not playing Caitlyn for the rest of the series. That's gone. I think we all watched that game. It ended in 26 minutes. What? That's what anyone in their right mind would want to happen. 26 minutes. Oh, of course, of course. Of course, that's definitely step 1 in the many-step plan to really come back here. I think you need a better mid matchup as well here for Remember, as the LeBlanc, it seemed like they were pinched towards the end of the draft, and they kind of realized, oh man, we kind of need something here for Remember, and unfortunately, LeBlanc wasn't it. So I think going into this next draft, especially if we do see side selection change, you could see priority on that Tristana as well. Being able to take side selection didn't change, but the point is, if you can deny Tristana away as well and get a better mid matchup for Remember, I think this game is going to be a lot different than the first one.
For sure.
For me, it still just smells like I am the greatest, you are the worst, and that you would have had to go back in time and actually do that. Either way, there's 3 of us here. My math counts 5 people, 2 more to talk a little bit later on. 1 in the back, and he doesn't count because Hyper, of course, doesn't count for the people talking on stream, at least not yet. Maybe he'll jump in at some point. But Mr. Mizell, Mr. Chilling Walk will be joining us yet again to cover the drafting phase before we jump into game number 2 between these 2 teams.
Welcome back to the caster desk here for game number 2 of this quarterfinals matchup. Obviously, ISU versus Wildcard Developmental. I am so ready to dive into the second game. I just want to get into the draft and see what we're missing from game number 1, Will.
Got to stretch out, man. I think I'm Wildcard Developmental right now and be like, no worry, guys. We can flex a little bit in the draft. It's all good.
Yeah. Fine.
But honestly, I think the desk covered it pretty well. They highlighted the LeBlanc, which isn't a good answer to Tristana. It only works post post laning once you're able to kind of tackle the back line, but that never happened. They never touched him. No. What happened? I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm really wanting to see some of that laning shortness coming through for Wildcard. And honestly, for the side of ISU, keep on trucking, man. You want to feel confident. You want to keep playing with those high-profile picks. maybe get a little bit more tankiness so you don't have like a 5-0 Udyr at the
Get some
beginning of the
some
game.
sort of long range ultimate that you could just kind of stun people up with, or better flankers. I think that's probably the option. Or you just kind of go like full on artillery and you just go like Xerath and try and poke him out. That's always an option too if you ever want to go that avenue. So.
It is indeed, as we'll see what they get into here, but I guess more so my eyes are turning over to Wildcard. They need to perform in this game. I want to go more than 2 games here. I want to see them be able to push us all the way to the finals, or to the final 3 at least, final 13.
Yeah, I'm down too. I mean, if they go to game 3, then they're kind of showing what they can do overall when it comes to just their play style. I think ISU has shown something new to the table, right? I don't think we've seen them go for this very squishy, full-on siege composition that is playing heavily towards bottom side, but they played it very well. Usually, we see them go for the very long haul in a very long haul when it comes to these kind of late game team fights, and this is where the game just kind of accelerated because they were just waiting for those 2-3 item spikes, and it worked out wonders.
And that's where I really love GFP's influence in this game on this Lilia. Getting that early in-your-face attitude against this Udyr, taking those chickens over and over again, even though the second time around didn't work out. But it just set the pace of the game. That's something I laid out for ISU going into this, was they love to control the pace. They love to have complete control of what they want to do and when they want to do it. I think the second draft is going to be very telling at what they want to do, and especially how Wildcard are going to respond after that first game.
Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to see a Tristana ban come through. Lennon, I think the flexibility of Tristana gave him a lot of power in the first pick, because it made them choose Kai'Sa R4, and then from there also go for LeBlanc at the last pick there, and then you don't really have the best options when dealing with the Tristana. And I'm not too sure if Remember plays other assassins in the mid lane against that champion, so we'll just have to wait and see what kind of tools they're going for. But so far, first 2 bans basically the same right now.
Yeah, it is not going to be the switch up of sides either, as we get into this one as well. Same bans coming through. Got to get some of those comforts off. Cannot give that Zoe over to Remember, or the Kane rather as well, over to Ghostly Cat, and just trying to make sure that Illinois State can keep getting the pieces that they want, and making sure that Wildcard don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, another question right now is Seraph going to be banned away on Wildcard side, right? ISU banned on blue side. Maybe they leave it up this time. Tristana is going to be the one that is banned out. So I did call it out that Tristana probably giving a little bit too much power for ISU when it comes to the way they can move around the Trist as well. So good job on their end, but it does leave the Gangplank open. It does leave the Lucian open. It does allow that kind of top lane to be explored if ISU wants to kind of take that matchup again and go for this kind of siege comp here. Or maybe they pick the Lucian early on and flex that around too, because we do see the Caitlyn being covered.
Hey, do not want to deal with those 2 ADCs potentially. The Seraphine ban did come across for ISU though. We get focus onto GFP's pool. We get the Nidalee band away from him. A little bit of a skirmish jungler, a little bit of early presence jungler that again leans into that pace we were talking about.
Yeah, I wonder why though, because Gloomtree Panda got the free Lilia. It wasn't banned away. It was perfectly fine. I don't know why the Nidalee was even being banned at all, unless if ISU want to play towards the solo lanes. ISU don't do that, Lennon. I don't know if you know. We never see we don't really see GFP be picked up.
I gotta call Rebel out, Walk. I gotta call Rebel out.
Rebel, he says, called out.
He says, he doesn't play Jinx. Well, hey, I mean, maybe it's going somewhere wonky, but Disconnector's looking like he's gonna play that Jinx.
Oh, he's playing the Jinx. He's definitely taking the Jinx for himself. And it's going to be looking really good, especially when we get to late game situations and what ISU is known for. Wildcard, though, taking TC Porsche's tried and true Gangplank. It also works well into Jinx, too, knowing that she doesn't really have mobility options unless if she gets excited throughout the team fight. But early on, the Cannon Barrage is definitely going to limit the strength of Jinx when it comes to these team fights.
Absolutely, but I want to see how Porsche can perform on that. GP is a big pick for them. First, best pick at least, best win rate, but most played champion as well. So at least you're still getting some of that comfort for Wildcard. The Varus does come through here, so a little bit of a different pick for Wildcard themselves.
Yeah, I'm always liking that the Varus is now the de facto option when countering Jinx in lane, and just an overall knowing that you could just throw the ultimate and it can hit her, and then you could just burst her with your passive before she can actually just kill you up front. So I like this kind of option of what Wildcard is going for. It's very clear though that for both these compositions, they're kind of drafting these two heavily team fight oriented compositions that might just come through. You know, you have a front line being established from ISU along with a dedicated back line. Wildcard, they're perfectly fine, you know, playing this kind of front to back team fight composition as well, and
Yeah,
we're seeing that being developed.
I really like these picks up. The change up here for ISU, especially with that Scion, that Olaf lock-in. It's going to be some spicy fights in the jungle, and especially in those transitions. I was going to say, the Udyr is still available, Walk, and I would love to see it. The Hecarim is another pick that's still so strong. Typically, you will see that matchup going against each other, but hey, now we get the Hecarim up against that Olaf.
Yeah, it's a little crazy how both these teams opt in for their third slot champions that want to dive in, right? That pivots away from what the other two champions like to do. Sun, of course, can dive in with the ultimate, but then Jinx, of course, can't dive in until she gets excited. But for Hecarim and everyone else on his team, you know, if everyone goes in way deep in, the only thing that's going to be supporting him is that cannon barrage. Don't expect Nui to walk up and try and, you know, help him dive into the back line. So it's interesting that both these teams pick champions that work against their composition. So it makes it so that both of them, when they interact, is, you know, pretty low range. No heavy dives, you know, from half a screen away.
Yeah, and we're getting heavy focus towards the support pools here in the second phase of bans. We got the Lulu banned away by Wildcard, as well as that Thresh that ISU don't want to deal with. It was actually a pretty good point there for the side of Wildcard last game.
They're banning two ranged champions too, so they don't want to have Noska play champions that could just accelerate Jinx and just catalyze them. Morgana's also a fine ban too. As a
That
black
would be,
shield
actually. I like
onto
that ban.
Jinx is
Yeah.
something very annoying. Because the only tool you have against her is the currently Onslaught of Shadows post landing phase. So I like that.
Yeah, and you can also stop them from being able to protect against the chains of corruption, things like that. That long range poke, that long range setup that Wildcard could be, or at least that ISU could be going for. Now, my question here is though, you have some great pieces for ISU. How do you tie it together? Because you're focusing on a lot of these initiation supports that you're banning away. You got the Rel banned away now, and you've got you're giving the first pick of the second phase over to Wildcard. And I was just about to say I would hope that Wildcard can get some more of that initiation, some more of that follow up to get that Hecarim some more tools to work with.
I mean, at this point, if I'm ISU, like, and you're looking to pick another Janna support, like Janna looks really good here. You can knock up the Alistar. You can give a shield to yourself, shield to Jinx. You are able to go Moonstone and Staff of Flowing Water for yourself. You're able to catalyze the Olaf if he wants to dive in, and you can heal him up too. Like I really like Janna here, knowing that Wildcard is indexing a little bit more.
Hey,
Instead, we're gonna get
my boy.
Can you get? Hey, Lennon, can you go get Kangas real quick? This is something that Kangas would want to
If he
play.
was home, I would 100% do that right now. We just played it the other night, and it was not. You know, we've seen better days. All right, Walk. I don't want you to pester me about it. Stop asking questions. We're talking about a draft here. The Tarek was locked in for ISU.
Okay.
The Silas also coming through though for ISU, so they still get that versatility. They still get some of that engagement, and honestly, they get the pick of the litter on what ultimates they want to steal.
Yeah, this is really good for Drudosa, knowing that they've
There's
indexed
the
with
ball
Tarek,
delivery potential.
and they want to go through. Orianna is definitely a good option into the Silas if you want to pick something that can range and do well against this, you could say, quadra frontline from ISU, because there's no like dedicated heavy dive coming in.
It's the Rise.
You know, Rise is a little bit bold. It can work well into the Silas. The issue is that you can also get run down pretty easily because, you know, you don't have any sort of hardcore CC, but If it does get to that late game, you will outscale for sure. You know, you have Rise, you have Vars, you have Gangplank. You definitely outscale Illinois State's composition later on because you have a lot of more damage threats.
I would like to say I still think I prefer the meatball comp that ISU's going with here in those team fights. Because you just think about the combinations and that sustained fight with them, with the healing that they're gonna have, with the Jinx getting excited. You have to really get your target selections down in those fights. I feel like that's something we didn't necessarily see from Wildcard in game number 1. They've got some more tools to do that. They've got some more pieces to be able to ensure that they can kill some of those targets. But if you're giving up those early laning leads, you can't have that happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty tough here. And also for Wildcard, right there for the bottom side. For the bottom side, it's going to be a push and pull based on whatever spells land on top of each other, just because it's double melee versus double range. It's a gigantic push and pull. Jungle is very volatile too. Whoever gets that first kill can just start steamrolling the rest of the game.
Absolutely.
So I think the biggest point that we have to pay attention of is how Gloomfree Panda and Ghosty Cat can accelerate the lanes that they want to play for. You know, can Porsche and Ghosty Cat defend their bot side place with the cannon barrage and the Ghosty Cat being there, or can ISU get GFP off the ground and start setting things up for Judozer and play for those 2v2s? It's going to be a lot on the jungle and how well they move around their lanes.
Yeah, and that early presence, that early skirmishing, and we saw GFP buy into that a little bit in game number 1, especially trying to get those early invades as Lilia, trying to get that early presence. So this time is more so that the Udyr did really well for Ghosty Cat last game, but this Hecarim's going to be a different beast, right? You can't just get tanky and you're going to feel good. You need to get leads. We've seen Hecarims not be able to get leads, not be able to develop those advantages, and they kind of fall off, especially looking at the composition across the board. So we've got a lot of onus on these two junglers, but still, it to me, we have to also tie that with the fact that they need that stability in the lanes. They need to not be giving up those big advantages. So when Ghostly Cat makes that presence known, it comes to a good boon for them.
Yeah, and a cool thing too with Hecarim, I know you mentioned that when we see Hecarims snowballing if Hecarim does snowball, he starts falling down the wayside. Chemtech Hecarim is very annoying. It actually allows him to scale into the game. And I don't know if you realize that. Chemtech Hecarim
We'll see.
makes him like a pretty devastating force. And along with that, it just makes him another frontline for 3 triple threats on Wildcard, right? And I think that's all he needs to be, is just be something that can just disrupt the team, get that move speed, and just make sure he's pushing Silas away or pushing Sign away from the rest of the squad. So I like what Wildcard has. They could definitely scale here, but in this early game, ISU's 2v2 is for sure favored for their side.
It definitely is, and again, that focus is going to be key. I also want to kind of tie in the objective control for this game, especially because ISU actually were able to, they didn't necessarily have the greatest early part to the game in that presence around the objectives, but as it came further on, getting those tower plates, getting those lane assignments right to where they were able to get that much gold for themselves, and leaning that into the Rift Herald takes, into the Dragon takes. It all just worked out so well for them. So I want to see Wildcard throw a wrench into the works there for that and try to stop that objective pull from being taken.
I actually think ISU isn't really good at the objectives, actually. Like, they could take it very fast. No doubt about it. The thing is that you have to deal with Cannon Barrage and Realm Warp from a potential flank from Alistar. You also have Varus Ultimate too. Like, getting flanked on as ISU's composition isn't going to be a fun time, because if your front line is separated from Jinx, I think it's kind of game over. They only have one major threat, and it's going to be that Jinx. Later on, like, you could tackle Silas, you could tackle Olaf. It's all about killing Jinx. And if Jinx is gone post 30 minutes, like, it's basically free sailing, So,
but you got a Taric. You have a Taric.
Yeah,
Come
sure.
on.
You have Cosmic Radiance. You make her invulnerable. No,
Whee!
she can. Hey, Lena, our pure Ulk battery doesn't like playing 80 carries because 80 carries get deleted in 0.3 seconds. That's basically what can happen in this game too, Lena. So.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes, as I do believe we're going to be getting into the game here very shortly. Walking everybody that's been waiting around to get into this one, to make sure we can have everything ready on Summoner's Rift. as we are going into game right now. This is it. This is Wildcard Developmental needing to pick up a win, and ISU trying to slam it home. Here we are on Summoner's Rift.
Everyone flexing their masteries. Mastery 7 on Drew.
Wait, it's Hyper!
Oh, Hyper's in. Wait a sec.
It's Hyper!
Wait a sec.
We were baited.
We were baited.
It's
Not
fine.
gluten-free pan anymore.
All right. That's a little
is
scarier, gotta say.
All right. If
because
I am
Hyper's on
Wildcard-
Olaf.
Yeah, if I'm Wildcard Developmental now, I am going to be a little bit more afraid of the early game because Hyper is a feast or famine jungler. Like, those kind of people, when you play against, is honestly so scary because it puts a lot more value in the first couple interactions. It's not about the entire game, no. It's about, yo, what happens if he comes to my camp right now? Or what happens when he just, for some reason, just shows up where I want to be at? You know, and those are things that you always have to wonder at the back of your head when playing against some of these players who like to kind of, you could say, coin flip the game.
Coin flip, coin flip, coin flip. We'll see, though. Both junglers starting on the top sides of their respective maps. Could be seeing some butting heads as we do focus potentially more on that bot side, trying to get that duo lane ahead.
Yeah, we already see top laners going. For the bottom side, it's actually interesting. It looks like they definitely want to make sure a bottom state is very volatile. Expect like everyone teleporting in. I feel like it's going to be a bounce party in the bottom lane. What's that feeling?
Maybe they. I hope they got the extra cushiony bouncy house.
I don't think I've injured myself in a bounce house before. So in this game, I feel like they are going to injure a lot of people. Multiple TPs. Junglers going bottom side. Disconnector, of course, being a big hit for ISU, and Minui playing a champion that can create action as well.
And looking to create action, I mean, we're going to have a little bit of slow early game, right? Olaf looking to farm up a little bit. Hecarim is fine farming up until they really need to get involved, but I love to see this already because Nausicaa has made a roam. The mid lane isn't going to find anything, not even a summoner spell there, but the potential is there.
Yeah, it does mean that, remember, probably has to blow his TP to get back to lane, which is, of course, always a victory. Because it means that you're able to make map plays on the bottom side, knowing that, again, I feel like bottom is going to be pretty damn volatile if they want to kind of slug it out. I feel like both these bottom lanes do want to slug it out, you know? For sure, Disconnect or Nausicaa. And when those happen, teleports are kind of like your trump card.
So we do have full clears coming out from both junglers. Hyper was looking to try to get over here onto the scuttle, but Ghostly Cat has already found it. He'll be looking to follow this up, though. As that's going to be the flash from Nausicaa. Ghostly Cat getting solo. He doesn't die, though. Hyper gets first blood, but dies immediately afterwards. This is absolute chaos. ISU found themselves on the wrong side of town as Drew Dozer's doing some ham stuff right now. Disconnector playing through the bush, able to survive a little bit longer. Drew Dozer's going to commit there. Flash from Remember to save his AD carry, and a double kill goes over to Minui. 4-2 and Wildcard strike first.
Leonard, remember what I said about coin flipping the game? We just coin flipped on. We just kind of
coin flip right there.
We just kind of coin flipped on the bottom scuttle, like whatever your jungler is very afraid of doing. They try to go in. Surprising that Ghostly Cat managed to survive that long though, because if he actually fell down to the wayside by Disconnector, he would have had double votes. I think that actually kind of changed a lot of what actually occurred on ISU when it came to that opening. So, Progressive Wildcard, man, they pick 2 kills from Minui. And now, if I'm looking at bottom lane, man, like, it's a big lead on the bottom side.
Pretty big lead as Minui is going to be able to go back and buy. Drew Dozer finding himself a cow in his face here, as well as a horse on the side there. He engages there. What's the damage back? You hear those cowbells. Yasin needs to get out of there. Oh my god, Drew Dozer showing some serious mechanical play on that Silas already.
Yeah, Drew Dozer wanted more cowbells.
Coming. He wants this. He knows he's got the advantage at this point. Oh, he drives in. He's tanking some minions right now, Walk. That's the biggest trouble for him.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a worry from Yasin. I actually didn't even think Drudos would want to contest that, but he was definitely 100% A-okay to do so, because remember, doesn't really have a lot of damage. Rise is kind of low on the early damage scaling portion of the game right now, so that's why he's able to take that 1 versus 2 before Ghostly Cat showed up.
We'll do just that. You do see some pings coming around that dragon pit. Want to get some vision around there is ISU, but right now it's actually Ghostly Cat. Could be looking down there. I do believe we are going to have a replay coming up very shortly about what we saw in that chaotic early fight. As it's going to start off with this 1v1.
Yeah, let's pay attention to Ghostly Cat right now. He gets stunned up. Look how little health he has.
Yeah,
he survives with the heal. And also, Hyper is the one who gets the buffs, not Disconnector. That's why it sucks so much.
Oh, it looks like we're getting a full engage in the pot lane, though. Disconnector, as you say his name, will find a kill as well, as they completely collapsed on bot side.
It also means that they are able to get this dragon too for themselves if they're going to be going for it. And for ISU, actually for both these teams, getting dragons is going to be a pretty big name of the game here, because of how both these teams want to kind of function when it comes to scaling. Snipe comes through. It's not going to work out, but they want to fight through.
Oh, the blast cone went wrong, and then they found, remember, they found everybody. Ghostly Cat get low. They're getting excited right now for Disconnector. He is untouched. He is literally untouched. He is just popping caps right now, and that is a huge pickup for ISU in front of the Dragon Pit.
Rule number 1 in team fighting, ladies and gentlemen. Don't walk in one by one, because they're able to just kind of target one person left and right. And that is basically what happens in that game. From Remember to Ghostly Cat to Yasin, like 3 of them just died individually because they were not on the same page.
You see some tussling happening here. Porsche wants to respond a little bit, although Drudozer has a cannon barrage here. He's going to use it. A lot of damage onto Porsche. The flash is going to do it from ShamWow. Relmorph came through. The Mega Death Rocket not going to go anywhere, though. The Onslaught of Shadows does. Ghostly Cat on a double kill right now. And Wildcard, just like that, are going to even up the kills as well.
What are we fighting for, though, Lennon? Like, what does that result in? Because the win of that means nothing unless you're looking to early swap your bottom side to set yourself up for a Rift Herald play, but you already just won on the bottom side if I'm ISU. You won the dragon fight, you got a good amount of gold. There's no reason to continue fighting until you set yourself up for something else here. And because of this, you kind of just gave your gold away, you know?
It is a bit unfortunate, but a topsy-turvy early game actually lending into Wildcard's favor right now, I feel like. I mean, both sides have a lot of scaling, a lot of things to work on in the team fights and in the later games, but right now, I mean, it feels good for Wildcard to be keeping up, to be keeping this pace within control of themselves, because that's something we did not see in game number 1. As Drudozer gets caught here as well, is not going to be able to get the abduct out. Does have a lot of healing with that Kingslayer, though. Remember, trying to get the combo. One more will do it. Remember gets the kill.
Yeah, Drudozer's just looking so out of place when it just comes to laning. You know, he opts for a fight on the top side with ShamWow and goes for the cannon barrage. In mid lane, he also just face checks onto the top side too without establishing mid lane priority. Like, very uncharacteristic things. And this is where ISU, they have a really good 2v2. Just be patient. Wait for Hyper to show up, and then just work together. Because you guys should be able to dominate every 2v2 that comes your way.
A little bit of that confidence potentially leaking over into the second game. See if they can shore up some of those weaknesses as well. It has been a bit of a different story so far, though, for ISU, and a different approach to the game. You see a big CS lead for Remember in the mid lane as well. So that's a bit of a hard thing to grasp with when you're dealing with a Rise.
Yeah, and we already see Drudozer sitting behind 20 CS, and of course 1, 3, and 4. 2 deaths that I think could have been easily prevented. So, going back in the jungle though, I'm just gonna get some wards out, but ISU need to set up their 2v2s and need to play together. They need to play together when it comes to just rotating this Olaf Silas devastating combo.
It is about that 1,000 gold lead right now for Remember, so we'll have to keep an eye on that and make sure he's continuing to grow that. And we do see a jungle fight happening up here towards the top side as Hyper is swinging the maxes. Ghostly, oh no, the bird from the red buff is going to get the kill. He flashes the mastery. He doesn't get the Scuttle Crab, but he'll go for the older Scuttle Crab, the Rift Herald itself.
Yeah. Hyper's 2 levels ahead against Ghostly Cat when it just comes to just full-on clearing stuff. We see the CS discrepancy, 94 to 72, Lennon. That's 5 camps ahead. You know, 5.5 camps ahead for himself, and that's what basically results in just soloing the horse down. And this is what we want to see. We want to see ISU have Hyper do his thing, have Drudozer come in for support, and it's working well.
They're
now
proxying the wave up.
with Shamwell proxying, they can set up this dive on the top side and tackle TC Porsche, Lennon.
Oh no, this Olaf is just going to keep on snowballing. ShamWow taking a couple extra tower shots. They might have mishandled that just a bit, but the wave is coming in here. Yeah, wave doesn't matter because mid lane Drudozer gets cut again. As I think they are trying to execute this dive. The TP is now coming in though. They've got ShamWow caught a little bit. Doesn't land the first spell throw. Mech Death Rocket comes up just for some help, I guess. They thought Yasin was behind here. ShamWow gets knocked right back into it. Here comes Hyper though. Here comes Hyper, and he is doing some serious work. My God! A double kill turned around just like that.
And along with that, Lennon, Hyper now 5-1-3, salvaging the topside play. ISU's bot lane rotates mid because of the action that happens top lane. They're setting themselves up to take a lot of kills going in. Ghostly Cat takes a little bit of too many rocket shots, but at the end of the day, ISU are moving together as a team when it just comes to these overall rotations. Minui's coming in and he does have that ultimate, but the damage is already coming through. We do have a replay coming in though, and it's probably going to be about mid lane with Drudozer just getting tackled then by 3 people.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate positioning there from Drudozer, and then we get what happened in top lane up there just a little bit. See, the Cannon Barrage used to stop any of that initial trading there, and that TP as well being used is huge from Remember because it pulls them back immediately.
Yeah, but this is where I think we look at Wildcard Developmental. They weren't ready for Hyper and his damage, man. I'm being honest.
No, they weren't.
He gets the axe on 2.
He literally ran at those.
He literally just runs through both solo laners. My God.
It was very, very impressive and a sign of things to come now. He has 2 items completed, not even a single one yet,
13 minutes
at least for Ghostly Cat. They need to get it back on the Detector. They need to try and get a little bit more for themselves. But that Ocean Dragon was picked up Wildcard before the back to Ghostly Cat. So now that Chem Tank is achieved, and maybe a little bit more tankiness going to help out the squad.
You know, Lennon, if I'm ISU, literally, let's just sit on Hyper. Just make sure everything's on him, okay? That's honestly the game plan for the next 7 minutes of the game, is making sure Hyper gets to do his thing. He's building his goal lead even more. Lennon, like, he's 120 CS versus 85. He's still 2 levels ahead in this jungle matchup. And this is what we were talking about when it came to the jungles overall, right? Blue Tree Panda, a lot more consistent, but plays a little bit at a lower level. Hyper plays at a higher level, but inconsistent. But when Hyper is on board, this is the kind of performance you expect to see.
It absolutely is, and that's what we were looking at, that aggression coming in. The damage is already there. Yasin's about to just be made into hamburgers. Unbreakable Will is going to save him for a while, but Hyper is now unstoppable, and they're going to keep pushing this mid lane. ISU taking complete control.
And he still has that Ragnarok on lock too. Didn't even use it in that fight. So whatever fight that happens around this bottom side, Hyper is able to tackle this through. He might get collapsed on.
This is a lot of people coming over here. Although the stun goes that, here comes everything too, and Hyper is dominating. Hyper is continuing. Hyper is the name of the game right now, and Drudozer goes in to try to put his name in that book. He flashes forward. The axes are flying. The damage is there. Can they just keep going? Why is this not illegal, Walk? My goodness, it is a full ace, and ISU wiped the floor with Wildcard.
Oh man, Hyper picked up 3 kills in that entire. He don't give a crap, bro. It is It is his game. Well, you remember I said something about
Honey
deathballing
Pepper?
around him?
What is it?
Remember when I said something about deathballing around Hyper?
Yeah.
That's basically why you deathball around Hyper. Nothing is able to kill this man at this point in the game because no mythics are being built up. No items are able to cut down his healing at this point. And you can't lock him down because Ragnarok is still on the table. And if it makes things worse, he got the help of the gods with that Cosmic Radiance coming on top of him to give him a gigantic halo to kill everyone down through.
Indeed, I do believe we're going to be getting in this replay. I want to see how all of this went down. Hyper just starts it off beasting.
Just pay attention to Hyper. Like,
even got
look
the
how much
blue.
damage. Look how much damage he just chucks through. He also throws an axe to Manui because he already know that TC Porsche was already dead. And this last axe takes down Manui too. Yasin just came off reset, bro. Like,
Yeah,
he came to mid lane, died to Hyper, comes back in to participate in the fight, and then dies to Hyper again. Like, how... It must suck to be Yasin right now.
See if he can get that team fight lockdown going for himself. But yeah, it's looking a little bit rough on that side. The gold lead has just exploded at this point for ISU. It was so even for so long, but a couple of crucial decisions by both sides mean that ISU are coming out on top.
Well, looks like a ShamWow did die, so we're going to see what happened here. Gets jumped on by 2, so just gets caught out by 3 people. Unfortunate. He wanted to get the wave under the turret, but gets collapsed on at an inopportune time for himself. So do find something on the board, which is a good thing for Wildcard, but the big question, the big scientific puzzle that they have to kind of, you know, get some PhD degrees in is tackling down what is this Viking.
Yeah, they found Porsche. Oh my god. That chunk of the health bar with the call down, like that was just so much damage and disconnected with him to get the guy. He pops Ragnarok.
Doesn't care,
Again,
bro.
I'm just gonna say it. He just don't care. There's the onslaught of
Now
shadows.
there's
Cosmic Radiance is here.
Aw.
Hyper's gonna turn right around with it. You got the unstoppable forcer coming through as well. Damage is there already. I mean, this is all she wrote here. It's got to be. They're gonna snowball this straight into an in-hit.
Lennon, you've seen Thor Ragnarok where
They want to go top.
they want to go top. That's fine. They want to get more gold, strip the camps away, which is smart. I think that's the right play to generate more of a lead in the jungle discrepancy. But Hyper's basically Hela in Thor Ragnarok, guys. I don't know if y'all know.
I would say so.
Yeah, the longer he's on Summoner's Rift, the stronger he grows. What else can I say?
Has been quite impressive. As they're taking all the objectives at once. They got the Rift Herald being taken down. They've got the second dragon of the game for themselves being taken out as well. And they're just gonna look to get some resets and redeploy onto the map.
Yeah, action on the bottom side too.
Yep. Nope. They don't care.
They don't care.
He tried.
Right.
He tried. He used the cannon
tried.
barrage, but it doesn't
I think
matter.
I think Drudozer took Remember's Realm Warp away.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Remember, you made a mistake. You made a mistake. He was backing. Let him back.
He did not remember what Olaf does.
He does not remember that he's
In this
11 and 1. Now he's 12 and 1. So thank you. Don't do it. Let them back. Let them back. Do not.
Hyper has.
But you don't get to choose that. You just have to let it happen.
Just a heads up that Hyper has is a part of 20 out of 22 kills.
Yeah.
Can I see the gold real quick? I want to pull up how much money Hyper is making right now.
How big those coin purses are that are around himself.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God. Nope. Take it back down. Take it back down. I don't want to see it.
Stop.
see it.
That's too much damage. Too much damage.
Too much.
So Hyper he only has a little bit of gold, guys. Just a tad bit. Yeah. Just a tad bit of gold. It's the round one brought Porsche, so
So they done did it to him. They done did it to him. It wasn't Porsche's fault.
I don't know why watching replays, man. Like, what's there to cover?
This is Remember's fault. This is Remember's fault.
Like, what are we here covering, man? Hyper just runs through everyone. Like, oh, man. This is pure analytics. Oh my god, Len, he managed to land the axe. And that's what spells do.
Yeah, that will do it. Baron is going to be started up here. Cannon Barrage coming down. Trying to get some extra damage down. Ghostly Cat's just dying to Sham Wow at this point. Baron, they're pulling away from the pit. Okay, he's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah,
he doesn't get it. No. Okay, no September.
No.
There is no September. We're in spring. We're in fall. We're in winter. Whatever it is. TP's coming in here now from ISU. They do get one of the kills though. They do get some responses here, but there's still 4 members strong from ISU. They have Baron buff. They've got a quadra kill for Hyper, and they are going to push this advantage. Oh no. Oh
yeah,
no.
Drew wants to stop this.
Okay, fine. It's fine.
He doesn't stop, but it's not going to matter because Hyper don't stop when it comes to taking lives. Even if Porsche's here, one axe will spell the doom for TC Porsche. It spells doom for anyone, man. Like, remember when Captain Flower says he would want to open a beer can with an axe? Hyper is basically cracking, not beer cans, but cracking heads right now. As
Hyper really just wants to take this 1v5. Like, I love it because Nazuka was like, yeah, I got you.
I got you.
But now they kind of baited themselves. Look at this, though. The Shrine Breaker right into the back. He's still alive. He's taking 2. He finally dies. That's going to be a big shutdown for Ghostly Cat. And they follow this up, though. Drew Dozer's here. Chains of Corruptions come out from the Silas. Mega Death Rocket comes in as well. They don't even need Hyper anymore. He's got all the gold. He's chillaxing back at the crib. And you've got everybody pushing down the base of Wildcard Developmental. Minui is trying his darndest right now. They're going to give that kill over to Drew Dozer. And this has to be it. The Rift Herald coming out. This is going to be the series walk.
Never in my life have I seen an Olaf.
That's a dancing Rift Herald.
That hard.
That is a dancing Rift Herald.
We're going to have a dancing Shelly come in, as I think Hyper is for sure dancing on his table when it comes to that kind of performance, because, my God, I don't know what to say, man. Hyper was looking phenomenal that game. It's the bop emote, right? Basically, he sees this person, that's what he does. He's like, hey, yo, bye-bye, get out of here.
I gotta give it to the series, though. I mean, especially over to ISU, who claimed this insane 2-0. Like, it was absolute domination in 2 different aspects from them, with the difference in junglers and everything. Wildcard still having some good performances. I thought that second game was it. They were starting to do so good in it.
It looked good.
And having some advantages, but then Hyper just says, no.
Yeah. It looked good, but the issue is that 2-on-2 that I mentioned. Drew Dozer was dying left and right. I don't know if y'all witnessed that. Drew Dozer was dying left and right, but he was basically a non-factor because Hyper was basically running around C champion, killing champion. That's basically what he was doing the entire time.
Yeah. It's the Udyr say the run stub job done, but it's Olaf smacking people in their faces over and over again. And it was a lot of good victories for ISU. Some questionable calls, but all in all, to come out of a 2-0 victory like this to start off your playoff run is absolutely insane. And to break that down a little bit, Walk, we gotta send it over to the big brains over in the analyst desk. As thank you everyone for tuning into the cast, and here you go. Here's some beautiful faces on your screen.
My head hurts.
That was. How did? Are we back already? What happened, guys? That was a speed run. Like, it was that like as fast as possible? Welcome back, everybody. As we end up, what was that beatdown? What was the results again? I wasn't sure. Could you enlighten me? I think I might have missed the end game. Who won the series?
Yeah, it is true. Rebel is getting up there in age, so he can no longer actually see correctly. It was Wildcard who lost. ISU 1-2-0. All right.
That's right.
Make sure you take your medication, Rebel.
That's right. Anyway, this is phenomenal. It was a great series from ISU. They came in game 1 with Gluten-Free Panda in. Game 2, we got punked a little bit because Hyper ended up coming back in for reasons that we'll leave to anybody else's discretion to want to share. But what a performance he had. We wanted to talk about this guy to start the series. Didn't really get a chance because we're like, all right, Gluten-Free Panda's in. But here he goes, pops off on the Olaf that I've known him for a very long time, Koskinen. I mean, What is there anything to say about that series? That was insane of a performance.
I will say I was surprised with how it turned out. That early play was like pretty good for Wildcard. They got 2 early kills on the Varus. I was very disappointed to see it end up going for the Gale Force because you're not going to get through Scion, Olaf, Tarek without like some heavy DPS, even if it puts you in danger. So it felt pretty bad to see that come through because he was really their only like way of getting back in. And Hyper just popped off on the Olaf. That champion is kind of hard to deal with if you don't know these extremes, and Hyper definitely knows how far he can push that champion. And that is definitely one of the champions I know that he can play to like maximum potential. As I might have called him an inconsistent player before, but when he's at his peak, it is really up there. He's a very dominant player. He knows how to push that lead. He just took this game to another level with 1v9 Olaf plays, getting quadra kills, completely destroying team fights, just not caring about anyone else. He's just running in, throwing axes. It was a good game. It was good to watch. I was a little unfortunate that my prediction was wrong. 2-1, 2-0. What are you going to do? ISD wins in the end of the day. So, what do you think, Beatdown?
I mean, I thought I just want to like preface this by throwing away everything we talked about early on about what we expected from Hyper, because I mean, realistically, we talked about how generally with ISU, Hyper plays. Actually been like what that would have looked like. I was honestly genuinely terrified, but at the end of the day, it was a really great game for Hyper. I do think there were some moments in the earlier stages of the game, especially with that early skirmish bond side, where Wildcard kind of come out on top, get some early kills on your Varus. That's great. You want to be ahead of Jinx. You love that. Problem ends up being now that you end up not really respecting the Olaf pick. A couple plays topside come to mind. And once you really start giving Olaf kills, I know we all like to meme about or talk about how, Olaf falls off. I'm not really sure he does anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on the champions that you're playing here. I was disappointed, as I said, with the Gale Force, but also I think Rise, even though Everfrost is super popular, this is one of those games where you just really got to go Leandries if you want to deal with the front line, as well as the fact that I want to give props where it's due. I think Yasin played much better this game. They completely shut Drudos out of the game. He just got back-to-back ganked. He was slammed up and down. Luckily, Hyper was there, but he was having a little rough time with that Silas blind pick. And I remember he was a lot more in his comfort zone with this roaming Alistar pick and actually able to lead the lane on like the first game. But Remember was not able to just put out the DPS to deal with this Olaf. He just got Hyper was just cracked, and Judos even came back at the end, hit some like pretty nasty chains in some of these fights. And the Silas pick with like crazy good ultimates like Hecarim and Alistar is always going to pop off. But I gotta give credit to ISU. I expected them to win. They won. You know how it is. You know how it is. But I'm glad to see them picking up some slack, playing a lot more consistently, a lot better than I've seen them in the past, and I think they can make a really good playoff run this season.
Pretty astonishing, actually. We got an update that our producer Hyper, he in the background sharing the namesake of our star player today. He was downloading the highlight reel, and I cannot figure out for the life of me how his computer. Okay, he said that the highlight reel is completed, so we'll show that. I don't know how you're going to play 22 minutes of game time and how you downloaded it that fast. But sure, if you want to show it, absolutely. We can talk over the B-roll footage of Hyper as he just like completely smashes this game. As like we said, coming into the game, that's our expectation. We talked about how the comparison between the two junglers, and they especially thinking that their jungler was of the same quality, or at least kind of jungle and the aggressive. But clearly that was not the case. Today is very outclassed was Ghostly Cat on this. This was the insane play. I'm pretty sure this was like just the pure quadra kill coming through, as he just gets to do anything he wants.
Yeah, gotta give the credits to the Tarek pick too. It definitely these ults definitely did some work in these fights. And you can see Minuit and Remember trying their hardest to kill this Olaf. And they cannot succeed. He is just too big.
Oh yes.
And he just takes over these team fights. So unfortunate.
Now, this is a dub. here for the side of Illinois State as we come into our first round of playoffs. They're the first team that actually wins. All three of our other teams play tomorrow. The other side of the bracket, we got Supernova, Dawn, Revival, Bay State. Bay State versus Revival is the team we're playing. We're actually on stream tomorrow, so you'll be able to watch them directly. But we'll instead kind of zoom in on the opponents of Illinois State versus Wildcard here in Conviction versus GMU. I want to remind everybody, Wildcard actually beat Conviction during the season. If they take the win versus GMU, there's an argument to be made that ISU should roll that team just as quickly. Beatdown, what are your thoughts on, I guess, their two potential opponents here in that semifinals matchup?
Yeah, I definitely lean more towards Conviction just from what we've seen in the earlier parts of the season. We saw them on stream, I believe, twice, and they actually did end up shocking and surprising us with how well they played and that they were a lot better than we initially thought. Should they go to the semifinals, though, and face Illinois State, who have made their way there, with the Illinois State we saw today, I do think it's probably going to go their way, just ignoring like transitive properties and everything like that. Like, this was clean from ISU. This was convincing from ISU. And it's going to be really hard to imagine that any other team on this side of the bracket could actually even challenge them right now.
Yeah, I do kind of agree, to be honest, just because as someone who's played in the same bracket as, well, I played against GMU as well, but ISU, and I've played against Wildcard them a lot too. Like, that's like no slack that they just put up a fat 2-0 there. It was a convincing 2-0 too. It didn't look like they were just, cheesing, or like they didn't get lucky. It looked like they've definitely worked much harder in recent times. So I think they'll definitely put up a good fight against Conviction here. So I definitely think they can possibly give us a good series. They can possibly win. They could take it all the way to the grand finals if they keep it up. Keep up these good drafts. I really like the Caitlin pick, really like the Tristana pick, and they're really able to be flexible, like with the Tarek. I think they can do a lot here.
I think that's the case as well. I believe our casters have already done their sign off, so another thanks to Mr. Mazel and Mr. Chillingwalk. Hyper behind the scenes, always smurfing as usual, giving us our replays, giving us everything that we have. Our new observer on the night, congratulations to her. Thank you for joining us and filling in for Hey, It's Me. And from myself, Koskinen and Beatdown Boulevard, we've been your desk for the evening. We'll be back tomorrow with Upsurge playoffs in this first quarterfinals with Revival versus Bay State. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Well, is not going to be able to get the abduct out. Does have a lot of healing with that Kingslayer, though. Remember, trying to get the combo. One more will do it. Remember gets the kill.
Yeah, Druno's is just looking so out of place when it just comes to laning. He opts for a fight on the top side with Shamwa and goes for the cannon barrage.
Oh, the flash from Nausicaa goes for Jack getting solo. He doesn't die, though. Hyper gets first blood, but dies immediately afterwards. This is absolute chaos. ISU found themselves on the wrong side of town as Drew Dozer's doing some ham stuff right now. Disconnector playing through the bush, able to survive a little bit longer. Drew Dozer's going to commit there. Flash from Remember to save his AD carry. They don't want to give over, but
they want to fight through.
Oh, the blast cone went wrong, and then they found Remember. They found everybody. Ghostly Cat getting low. They're getting excited right now for Disconnector. He is untouched. He is literally untouched. He is just popping caps right now. We'll have to keep an eye on that and make sure he's continuing to grow that. As we do see a jungle fight happening up here towards the top side as Hyper is swinging the maxes. Ghostly, oh no, the birds of help, I guess. They thought Yasin was behind here. ShamWow gets knocked right back into it. Here comes Hyper, though. Here comes Hyper, and he is doing some serious work. A lot of people coming over here. Although the stun goes at, here comes everything too, and Hyper is dominating. Hyper is continuing. Hyper is the name of the game right now, and Drew Dozer goes in to try to put his name in that book. He flashes forward. The axes are flying. The damage is there. Can they just keep going? ShamWow at this point. They're pulling away from the... Okay. He's gone. Yeah, remember?
Yeah,
he doesn't get it. No. Okay. No September. No. There is no September. We're in spring. We're in fall. We're in winter. Whatever it is. TP's coming in here now from ISU. They do get one of the kills, though. They do get some responses here. But there's still 4 members strong from ISU. They have Breeze walk.
Never in my life have I seen an Olaf.
That's a dancing Griff Herald.
That hard.
That is a dance.
you